TGIF, ladies and gentlemen. Thank God it is flat. Thank goodness it's Friday. Thank George for Frankenstein. I don't know what the hell's going on. My name is Josh Corey. You're listening to Iron Rail Media's Flat Earth Friday FringeCast. We've got... Well, it's going to be a tremendous show. I think if you've still got your pen and papers out from Zach's show last week, then they'll be coming in nice and handy again this week. We've got some big guests coming on. Lots of big stuff to go over, so stay tuned. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Glad to be here. Another fine Friday with you folks. I'm all about the alliteration today. We have a bit of a truncated panel this evening. We're missing one Mr. John Savage, who's at home with the puppy. Just he and his brand new dog. So big shout out to John. I'm sure he's tuned in or listening on a replay. I bet he's downloaded it also. So shout out to John. I hope you're enjoying Bueller, or whatever name you're giving him. That's Adam Meakin. You hear them in the background. Hello, Mr. Adam Meakin. How are you doing this fine Friday?
Doing well, mate. Doing well. Looking forward to, like I say, a mixed evening of a few bits and bobs, but really looking forward to speaking to Quantum ERASER tonight. So yeah, I had a good week. But my week's the backseat this week.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes once QE gets in here. We'll see how much of a backseat you take. And my co-host from this morning's Ironworks over there on Truth Frequency Radio every Tuesday and Friday at 4 a.m. Central, Mr. Walter Johnson. Walt, how was the rest of your Friday thus far?
It was great. It's been a busy day. Not much restfulness issues here at the house and the home front. Technical, honey-do list type stuff. So I may have to leave if I do have a friend show up to give me some help with an AC issue, but hopefully I'll be here for the duration. How was the rest of your Friday, sir?
Oh, working away at my slave job, trying to earn my life credits, hoping I don't run out of them and just die. So there's that. It wasn't too bad, Plus, I get to round it out right here with all you fine folks. I see lots of cool people in chat. Hello to everybody in chat. I see at least half of a Powerland crew in there. So good afternoon to all you folks out there in Vegas. And last but not least, we have one Mr. Zachary Zabala, or Good Times for All, if you prefer. Still got our notes out from last week. Still got my head reeling, trying to get over Aries diffraction. And was it Rayleigh's criterion? All sorts of stuff I got buzzing around between my ears. Still trying to get straight from last week. Mr. Zach.
Nice. Well said, Josh.
Thanks. Look at me go. As long as I sound like I know what I'm talking about, that'll do.
You guys are gonna have to give me 1 second. It's downpour raining, and I'm gonna have to pull some stuff into my truck. Yeah, it just got crazy all of a sudden on me. I'm so sorry. I know this is hard.
No,
but I'll be back in like 2 or 3 minutes, and we'll go from there. Sorry about that.
Nope. Enjoy that liquid sunshine. Well, we've got a bit of a hell of a show planned. Before we get into that, I wanted to talk with Walt a little bit, and Adam, because you got to listen to it. Well, okay, Zach heard it too. Let's be honest. We were all there this morning. But we had a really good show over on TFR. We had Arwen on from, well, his self-titled YouTube channel, Arwen. But you can also hear Arwen most every day over on the Nathan Oakley 1980 YouTube channel doing the Flat Earth debates, always chiming in over there. But he's not always allowed to exactly expound too much on the things that he has to say. So we wanted to get him on the Ironworks to let him just roam free, as they say, and just talk about whatever the hell he wanted to talk about. So he spent a couple hours with us over there, and yeah, it was pretty much as expected. Mind was blown. Arwen is definitely all over the place. His mind is just an enigma, the way that thing works. All sorts of good stuff coming out of there this morning. Wouldn't you say, Walter?
I still haven't settled all the dust from this morning, man. I was not expecting the directions that we wound up going. And usually, as you say, there over on Nate's channel, it tends to stay in the flat zone, whereas on our morning show on the Ironworks, we do stray a bit from that flat realm sometimes. And it really does tie into a lot of this discussion we've been having, both on the show and behind the scenes. Proof, metaphysics, realities, what can and cannot be considered an experiment. And of all days to have this discussion this morning, the perfect person this afternoon to kind of tie a nice little bow on it all. But yeah, when I say Arwen definitely blew my mind and opened me up into some places I haven't thought about in so long, yeah, we're definitely going to have him back. We need to get him over here as well one afternoon so we can have an easy 4 or 5 hour discussion that would have happened this morning had we not been constrained by our time limit.
Well, I felt kind of bad because I think he thought it was going to be for this afternoon's show, so he was just rolling out of bed, just the hottest part of the day. He's sitting there, no hair on, just dealing with us. Well, it's early for us, but he had just woken up himself, so he was a trooper. It was a really good interview. I thought it went really well. What do you think, Adam? You guys are here for this part.
From my understanding, that would have been ridiculously early for Arwen. I remember talking with Nathan, and he struggles if Nathan does a midday show instead of 1-2 o'clocks. He'd often be late. So I think he did a little bit more. It was almost equivalent to the time you guys are getting up, I think. In terms of in Arwen's body
right,
clock.
His zone, right?
But I mean, before I go on to, I was a bit distracted, weren't I, today? Because and just from the show, I went. Like I say, I had a busy thing, and I got somebody in, but I did have to shoot out to the hospital to see a lady we've been working with, and Josh, the shout out you gave was, she loved it and wanted me to just pass on thanks, and that it was I think stuff like that.
Well, good, because
really
they're still pumping out those positive healing vibes for Kay. I think that's way too much stuff for one person to have to go through. I hope she gets well soon.
Get in there, Miss Jones. She ain't going through it on one person. We're all with her. So anyway, so I was a bit in and out, wasn't I? I literally just got in for one question, which I kind of it's like with a lot of Owen stuff, isn't it? You kind of get an answer. He said yes and no to the things I said, and I could do with another hour. So I kind of leave it to you and Walt as to what was gathered. Really, like I said to you before the show, mate, I'm going to chill out and listen to it in full over the weekend, as always.
Well, it was. I don't even know where I was going with this. I was going to say something, and it just zipped right out of my brain as soon as I opened my mouth. I don't know, Zach, you got to hear a little bit of it. What did you think? What did you think of the Arwen appearance? Were you just completely blown away as we were for the bit that you heard?
Yeah, when he starts talking about the dark world and stuff, I'm very interested in that stuff, but I've never witnessed it. So it's hard for me to relate. But, I mean, the way he was talking, I mean, I've gone many places in my dreams that I know I've never seen before because I don't think they're physically possible, like in the realm of physics, the things that, that I saw. But I never saw any of the darkness that he was talking about. So it's hard for me to relate, but it's so interesting because I know there's many people that have had so many similar experiences, especially while using certain types of drugs, ayahuasca and stuff like that. And to be able to do that without having any type of drug, that's just amazing. And I'm sure there's people out there that can do it. We all produce DMT, and I believe that I'm sure some people produce a lot more and some people produce a lot less. So it was fascinating, the part that I got to hear the first half, and then work kicked in.
Yeah. There's a bit I just want to stick in there. There's a comment in chat. Is Arwen some sort of guru now? And just to put that kind of nonsense to bed, and there's nothing wrong with whether you agree or disagree with somebody, respectfully listening to them. And not for 1 minute when I was listening to them did I think I'm going to come out Orwinonian, you know what I mean, or with some. But I do think there's a lot to be learned from listening to other people's perspectives and not arrogantly dismissing them and not bothering to even hear it. It's a strange response. Anyway, sorry.
And speaking from just my interactions this morning and my personal experiences, I can definitely say that without a doubt, we have many topics we could continue on down that road. Unfortunately, in my experiences with these things throughout my life, this isn't just something that I've been into for 3 years now. This has been my whole life. And whether it's certain vibrations that are, like we talked about this morning, suddenly the light turns on really brightly and the moths wake up and they're both attracted to the light and agitated by that light, and are doing everything they can to feed off of and yet extinguish that light, which makes no sense. But that is what they've done when I've encountered them. And it's not like it's been a life filled with these encounters with nothing but darkness. There's many realms, many infinite realms, and I've been to a lot of them. Good, bad, and ugly. And the discernment is something that you learn by encountering these things, because sometimes they don't appear as dark, evil beings. Sometimes they come as bright little lights, and that's part of the trickery. And again, I didn't want to turn this show into that. Just again, this morning's show is a really great show. If you haven't listened to it, you can find it over there at tfrlive.com. In 3 or 4 hours when we get through here, of course.
That's right. Just look for the Ironworks. Look for that ugly bald mug. Can't miss it.
I think we're all having a different experience here, Walt, and I'm always
exactly
eager to listen to yours.
Everybody's got a different path. Everybody's got different frequencies. Everybody's got different things they chose here to be doing, or was thrust upon them once they arrived, or whatever your thing is. I know that it resonated with me because I know these places, and like when Laura and I spoke about these things, it's a lucid world. You just have to be aware of it.
That's why I've always liked Flat Earth and Other Hot Potatoes, what Patricia Steere does. Because she'll just bring in flat earthers and talk to flat earthers. It's just getting to know the person, right?
Exactly.
I'm all about that. I'm really interested in everybody's.
Well, that's what we've been doing since we started here. I mean, we have gotten, into some very scientific realms, and the people we've had have been amazing. But we've also had people that were just plain folk we met on Twitter, or folks we ran into at a meetup, or whatever the case may be. It's not. It's about the people. That's what it's always been. I mean, that's what this thing is. It's not about numbers or figures or this map's wrong or that model doesn't work. It's about the people who are waking up to the frickin' lies around them. That's really what it's about.
Sounds like it's still raining over there where Zach is. Drive safe, Zach. Don't Skype and drive.
He's gone. He's gone off the feed. Just put a call out.
And I was trying to say hello to people in chat, and I give up. There's too many wonderful, amazing people. I love you all. Thank you all for being there. And I see some people we haven't seen in a long time. Welcome back. I see some new faces or avatars or whatever. Thank you all so much for being here, man. Thank you. I'll shut up rambling now.
No, it was bigging a bit, Walt. I tried to keep up, and the only bit of interesting news I could say, I mean, it's crucial stuff. It's important stuff in the Flat Earth community. But apparently Sleeping Maury's getting his new hot tub tomorrow, so, congratulations, Tony, and thanks for sharing that, pal. And just check the level of that water.
So, now it seems as good a time as any for this, Adam. Watching Nathan's show today, the question popped into my brain. What is it that a pirate uses to presuppose that they've just sailed around the ball?
See, I have no idea, Josh. What does a pirate presuppose to sailor? Oh dear. This is the trouble with chat.
And of course, you know that's really not a pirate's favorite letter, right? Tis the sea.
Tis the sea.
I'm going now. Good night.
That's it, everybody. Thanks very much. It's been a great Friday. We'll see you all next week.
We're here all week.
Okay, so there was another comment in chat, also by the Sleeping Warrior. I thought maybe this might be a chance to maybe get into this a little bit before next week. I don't know if you wanted to, how deep you wanted to go into this, what with sheeps and neeps.
Well, I'm not going to go that deep, am I? Because let's put the disclaimer out. I tried, and when we always have a Wednesday pre-show. I tried my best. I'd worked hard and done all the chemistry for it, and I think we got half a page in, and both Walt and Josh pretended they had to go for the tea, because, you know, shocking, pair of them. I'd noticed more nodding off slightly 20 minutes beforehand, but so yeah, not too detailed. I think Nathan was kind enough to let me cover a load of stuff on his show, which kind of covered, I think, the gas cylinder mathematical problem and the regards to hydrolysis, which is catalyzed by an acid, sulfuric acid, I think, in this case. So no, I don't want to cover that. But I think there was another video that Tony had mentioned had come out in terms of a bit of technology, which is using this purported mechanism of electrolysis of water to produce hydrogen and oxygen. So I watched that tonight when I got in. It was quite interesting. Let me have a slurp of wine, mate.
Gotta get prepped.
Just wet me whistle, lad. So I kind of watched it. It's really interesting because this time it uses potassium hydroxide, which, if you know about chemistry, it's the complete opposite to an acid. It's a base. So I was intrigued as to why that was, and I looked into that, and the mechanism is because obviously acid in its natural state has a more corrosive effect than an alkaline on the equipment. So that's the theory as to why they're using it this time. Now, potassium hydroxide admittedly does contain potassium, one molecule, oxygen, one molecule, and hydrogen, one molecule. But again, the supposition, purported mechanism, whatever you want to call it, is that it's an alkaline catalyzed reaction for the electrolysis of water to produce hydrogen and oxygen gas. Which, if you listen to Nathan's show, my explanation of that with regards to sulfuric acid, it's the same explanation. It's a need to ionize the water to enable the reaction on the hydrogen ions and the hydroxyl groups, hydroxide ions, sorry, that's made up from the water molecules. There's a bit here, guys, that probably you do. People are talking about water conducting electricity. I don't know. Maybe you can fill in on that bit while I have a slurp. What your thoughts are?
Who are you talking to, Adam?
Guys isn't inclusive. Whoever wants to chirp in that. I mean,
I must have missed the guys. Sorry.
Or Zach. Zach's to the rescue. Zach, we were just saying your thoughts on the conductivity of water and pure water. I don't know.
Oh, pure water is one of the best insulators that we know of. It is like, say, plastic would be maybe a 2 or a 3, and then rubber is like a 5 or a 10, somewhere around there, or maybe glass is a 10. I'm not sure which one. Pure water is up in like 100, and it is that much more of insulator, according to that's he claims in his MIT courses on electricity.
Yeah.
So yeah, according to Walt, water is the best insulator that we know of. I've been trying to think of ways to use it as an insulator in practical reality, a way that you'd have to duper freeze the output. It'd be hard to do, I think. But
well, the trouble is, the second you get any form of ionized particle in there, it no longer becomes a super insulator. It becomes a very, very efficient conductor. And that's one of the other strange chemical properties, physical chemical properties of water, among many, which I've rambled on about. But so that's one point, and that's one point that's being raised, is this pure water doesn't conduct electricity, and no, it doesn't, and that's the purpose of the reaction being catalyzed, because without that it wouldn't conduct the electricity. Now, there are some cited stuff with regards to doing it extremely high voltage. Now, what I would suggest here is it's not, in the truest sense, really conducting that electricity that well, but it is at least putting enough power in to force the electrolysis reaction to occur. But it wouldn't be a great conductor in any sense. But so that's just addressing that point. But then I think yesterday another video came out with regards to this and potassium hydroxide. So like I said, I had a little look. It's exactly the same sort of thing. It's the reaction's catalyzed by the potassium hydroxide this time. Now, if I just share with you guys first, see if I can find it. I had a little look because it's a really cool bit of kit. And it's called. Is that sharing?
Well, see, this is an interesting conversation because it really doesn't have anything to do with Sheeps and Neeps or Anthony Riley. I got sent Peter and Pete's video by BRV, who said, hey, check this stuff out. And I thought, well, this seems odd. So I sent it over to Adam and the guys and thought, you know what, we just need to get Peter and Pete in here to have this conversation. So this was last Sunday. So within a matter of moments, I had hopped on their YouTube channel, found their latest video, popped a comment in there, invited them on. They sent me their email address. I emailed them. Boom, we had them booked. Peter and Pete will be on next week to discuss flat Earth and probably a little bit of hydrogen and oxygen discussions as well. But it was, again, one of those things that's just kismet that all of this stuff just happens to all surface right at the same time from multiple sources.
Well, that's a good point, Josh, right, in terms of, like I say, we're having these guys on. I'm addressing this point and I'm saying I don't agree with you. And I'm hoping that what I've seen this week is just, it's kind of sad that we have to behave amongst ourselves in this manner, that we can't have a point that we can address just civilly and discuss it. I'm more than happy to be wrong. I'm more than happy to be wrong on the points I saw, I made on Nathan's show, but hopefully I put my points over civilly without, swearing bingo, which, hopefully we should treat each other a bit better. We don't need to treat each other like ballers. If we do disagree on something, there's nothing wrong with setting a standard, is there, of civil discourse, but Anyway, back to criticising them. So Josh, I've sent you two web links. Can you put the first one up and screen share it, and Oh no, wait there, I can do it. Wait there, Josh, it's good. Okay, so I've got it there. I've got it. I'm learning. That's pathetic, that's really. So this is the system that they phoned up and spoke about with regards to the product, and you have to add, like I said, potassium hydroxide, and I think the implication of their video was that it's the potassium and the hydroxide that is creating the oxygen and hydrogen that's then combusted. And this is used for like jewellery and little bits and bobs like that, little soldering jobs like that, I think. There you go, look, jewellery. And so I had a little look at it, and I've got the... So it's quite interesting, because it says you have to buy a load of potassium hydroxide. So my first conspiracy head on was like, oh, maybe they've got a point here. Maybe this is a machine that's blagging it and is purporting to be doing this, but is actually using the potassium hydroxide in some way. So I did think that's wrong, because I remember doing this sort of stuff 20, 30 years ago, do you know what I mean? And so I did go and look up the electrolysis of potassium hydroxide, and it is a catalyzed reaction. But then I went, and the reason I was a little suspicious was just looking at the different models, having to put 300 grams in to this much water, this, and that makes sense, because it's a catalyzed reaction, and you do want the correct molar concentration that's going to be the most efficient for the reaction. So I was looking at it, thinking, right, and then you got to then going through it, and it would seem logical to me that if the potassium hydroxide was involved in the reaction, as in it contributed towards either the hydrogen or the oxygen component in of its own chemistry, then you would need to replace the potassium hydroxide when the machine, runs out. So I had a little look, and the only thing I could find is here, look. Check the level of the electrolyte liquid in the cell-type tube, switch off the machine, slowly add more deionized water until the level reaches full. Do not overfill, and replace the cap. I'm not sure where it was, but the important bit it was saying somewhere was, do not put any more crystals in. You only replace the crystals at servicing. So there's no need to tweak them, because obviously it stays the same. So that's kind of the only obvious proof that I can see that it is a replacement of the water that you have to keep replacing, and therefore that is technically the fuel. It is catalysed by the potassium hydroxide. Now, with my cynic head on, the only thing I could say is that in some way the machine uses that total volume of potassium hydroxide crystals, creates a certain concentration in the machine all the time, and that's why it needs servicing every so often. But that seems a hell of a convoluted mechanism to do that, compared to the standard filling mechanism that they talk about. So to me it does seem like the reaction chemically makes sense. They're utilising this in the machine. The way you use the machine and refill the machine suggests that it's water that is the input, and oxygen and hydrogen's the output. think I'm done there, Josh.
Well, here's the thing that always confused me, and I debated with professors and teachers with many times in class. Okay, water is the most abundant element there is here on the face of the planet. There seems to be a closed system with evaporation, condensation, rain, etc. But we're told that it's not an enclosed system. It's somehow magically contained with the void. This is way before Flat Earth, these questions I had. Where the hell did the water come from? Okay, it didn't just magically appear, and we're told you can't create it in the lab because the explosion that it would create would be so powerful that it would be like the Hindenburg and all this BS. And it's like, okay, then where the flip did the water come from? And I kind of see some of that debate going on in chat. I can't keep up with chat and listen to you, Adam. I'm going to stop watching the chat, but I've never seen these devices before, so I'm kind of, I don't know. I'm leaning two different ways with this. Is it the fact that this was just something that was part of creation since day one? I mean, we're told about the waters above, the waters below. I've already, many times we've talked about space being liquid or another phase of water, and I don't know, I'm just getting off on a whole different series of things that I've questioned throughout life. You know, show me an experiment creating water. I have yet to find one. I'm actually looking right now online and can't find one. And I may have said element, yes, but I'm getting emotional here because this is something that's been bugging me for a long time there.
Elements, the other controversial
There's
thing.
5. Didn't you ever see the 5th element? Come on, man. Fire, water, earth, air, and that 5th singy bitch. No, I'm kidding.
Mila Jovovich. No, go ahead, Adam. Let's get a little elemental, so to speak, because that's one of the things that Tony really wants to keep the focus on as far as Sheeps and Neeps is concerned, because what he's claiming is that water is an element.
Well, how can I get my balls out?
After we put our PG 17 or whatever warning on the screen, perhaps, maybe.
Not me.
You can, but they don't have a good history of surviving long around here.
No, there's no savage tonight. I'm all right. Right. So, I mean, there is a point out. Well, let me just deal with the standard chemistry first. So, water is, if we look at that molecule there, you know, the oxygen is in the middle, and there's the 2 hydrogens, and that's called a compound because it's made up of more than one element. Okay, an element being one individual atom. Okay, when we've got the hydrogen there, it's classed as a compound. Now that's standard chemistry definitions. Yeah. If we break that up, obviously, that's how we get our hydrogen gas, and then we get another oxygen. That's the way we deal with oxygen in the real world. It's diatomic. So that's fine. I think everybody knows that. But the only point I wanted to address with that is really with regards to Zach and some of the alchemical stuff, and I kind of mentioned it on Nathan's show again, and I think it's a perfectly valid way of discussing it in those terms. It is elemental in its function in an organic sense, and that's when alchemical processes takes in more about us being in the world as well as just the straightforward physical chemistry. And I think so. If you're talking in an alchemical sense, it is perfectly reasonable, as we see with some of the definitions in there, to use it in the sense of it being elemental, an element of life. But if we're talking about it being an standard chemical element, an element that is contained in the periodic table, then dictionary definition is incorrect, but it's certainly elemental. That was a good politician's answer.
That was a very good politician's answer.
Chin chin.
Diplomatic, that's the damn word I was looking for.
I just don't think there's a point to call somebody a Mongol just because you've been trained to think of this definition like that and take it like that. I think if we can all learn a little bit, that's all good, isn't it? You know what I mean? And the way to learn is sometimes just to listen a little bit, isn't it? Instead of shout at somebody else they're wrong.
In my experience, that's the best way to do it. I mean, I guess there's some practical application that helps solidify these ideas, but yep, it's all about listening.
Who's that? Who's got a phone call there?
That is actually me. I don't know if you guys saw in our chat earlier. Sorry, let me kill this. Earlier, but I have all of the flatline calls forwarded to Skype now. So anybody that calls the flatline, it'll ring here in Skype. This was something I was supposed to have tested prior to today, but you know, in the mix of things, it fell through the cracks. But there it is. At least I know it's ringing through. So anybody calling the flat line, just hang on tight, and maybe we will open up the phone lines here in a little bit. Otherwise, just feel free to leave a message or shoot a text on over. It may not go through to Skype, but I will get the text on my phone and my email. So
earlier, some people in chat were asking, would we be taking questions once we had QE in the house? And I said, definitely pay attention to the, we'll pay attention to the chat there. But yeah, surely, I guess they can certainly call in with questions. Is everyone familiar with the flatline number? 304-503-3528. That's right, 304-503-3528. That spells flat.
I've got it scrolling, baby.
Oh, that's right. We usually have plenty of screens where it's listed, don't we?
It's scrolling now. Yeah, that's because I couldn't remember it. I didn't bother. But that on that, I'm still waiting to hear back from John.
The discussion in chat, I mean, the water discussion in chat has definitely gotten people triggered, and I'm just never had a clue this would be such a triggering idea. So it did, as for sure. In many years, always have some interesting questions for me. But yeah, interesting. All right, I'm not gonna get off on another rant. I'll stop.
Well, let's It's only 5 seconds, so maybe they didn't leave a voicemail. They may have just hung up. Let's go ahead and check and see. We'll just do this live on the air right now and see what the hell's going on. Oh, no. I guess they changed their mind. Must have decided to not go ahead and leave a message. Because I worked hard on that damn Iron Rail Media voicemail. Oh. You know what? They just said, screw it. I'm going to call again.
Do it.
All right. Well, here's the good thing to know is they no longer allow you to merge calls, it would seem.
Oh.
So I'm not entirely sure how the best way to do this.
You've got the soundboard, Josh.
I do have the soundboard. But I don't think it's going to work quite as well as I'd like. So here's the problem. Right now, we are live streaming over on Facebook at Flat and Free on the Iron Realm over on our Iron Realm Media Facebook page.
Look at us getting all fancy.
Is it working? I know.
Yeah, it's working. I'm just live streaming to YouTube. You betcha. But
nice. Well, hello, Facebook people. Glad to have you.
But I'm going to go ahead and kill that Facebook feed and pull up Skype on the other computer, and there might be a way I can mix them together. Yeah, I feel horrible. Right now, you just have to leave a message at this point.
Is not paying off this time. So
not this time.
So sorry. We'll figure it out, though.
We will.
Hey, just a real quick bit of housekeeping. I see 68 people watching. I see 22 thumbs up and 1 down. I'm not a big
Dude.
math guy, but I see a discrepancy there. Come on, man, hit that like button. It's not that hard. Then more people can come over here and debate this with us.
Yeah, harsh.
Well, that didn't work at all. No thumbs went up. I'm gonna cry. Like crying, will crying work? That's right. There's no crying in flat Earth. I forget.
So, Rob, have you read? I've tried to have a little look at the chatter on that water stuff. So I don't know what the comments.
Yeah, I gave up, man. It was getting too spinning out and almost getting a little irate. And I don't see the reason. This is not like we're talking about this or anything.
Or drinking. Yeah. Hey, look, I'm happy to be wrong. I'm just only saying, look, that it appears to me that people are making statements that standard chemistry doesn't understand or is faking it, and I can only describe it as looking at it that I do understand it. Whether that turns out to be right or wrong, I'm cool, but I'd maybe just critique the correct method rather than what I think's happening at the moment is critiquing the incorrect method.
Hello. Oh,
Did we do it?
My God.
how are you guys?
Hello.
Hello.
This is all of Nathan Oakley's doing. He suggested I just add them to the group that we're in, so that's exactly what I did, so that the next time they called, they would just pop right in. So maybe not the best way to do it, but it certainly seems to work this time. So awesome. Hello. Welcome to the Flat Earth Friday.
How you doing, guys? Thank you.
So what's inspired you to call us this afternoon, this evening?
Well, I just wanted to say thank you for your contribution to Operation Mass Globotions. I feel that this is a rescue mission, and you're a part of helping waking up the world.
Very kind.
What was the name of that operation again? Mass, what was it?
Mass Globotions.
Abortions.
I love it. I love it.
That's good. Well, we're doing our.
We got this new thing going with Space Force, and the only real thing about that is when they get orders to go into deep space, they're actually going to be turned into chicken nuggets. That's Agenda 21, depopulation.
I can agree with that.
Chicken nuggets, you say? Well, that's one I've not heard of. Is that one of those
That's
new
right.
plans? I'm sorry, I must have missed it. Is that the agenda for the
Space Force? Donald Trump's Space Force?
I do remember the Space Force farce.
Okay, well, people that want to sign up for that, they're going to go, okay, babe, you're going deep space. Say goodbye to your mama. What do you mean? You're going 25 light years away from here, so you might not come back. We're going to put you on stasis, and you're taking off. We're going to send 50,000 of you, brave men, soldiers, into deep space. And in reality, they're just going to turn them into chicken nuggets to feed the globe stars all around our beautiful stationary flat Earth. That's what's going to happen.
For all those people smart enough to go eat at McDonald's?
That's right.
Well, thank you so much.
I feel that
super nice of you to call in and say some nice words. We really appreciate that. It's not often we get to use the flatline, so I'm glad we've been able to at least utilize it a little bit tonight.
no problem. Last time we had a wonderful get-together with a few flat earthers at a beach house, and we're having more and more meetups, and it feels like we have a new family that embrace the way we think. Critical thinkers, I believe, are the only ones that are finding the truth about flat Earth. And finding a flat earther is finding a new brother or sister. And I feel that's very important to unite and to continue spreading the word. And I feel this is the beginning of a breakaway society.
I'm sorry.
Or just remembering how we're going to get along.
We didn't even get your name.
Yeah.
So, caller, what is
my name is?
I'm sorry.
My name is Rene Calusea.
Renee?
Calusea, yes.
Well, Renee,
You bring up a good
Yeah,
point. I'm sorry.
You
Go
can
ahead.
find me on Facebook. And we're at war, brother. We're at war with this.
Yes, we are.
War with the civilization that they bombarded us with all this hypothetical nonsense.
There's a war on for our brains. I should coin that.
Well, it's for more than our brains, I'm afraid.
Someone might have a sniff of a
We're
copyright.
breaking away with all these cryptocurrencies. There's good news in the atomic swaps out there. If you guys are into cryptos, Flat Earth is going to have a Flat Earth coin, crypto coin, and
Absolutely.
we're just going to break away
Aaron on
from
here.
this insanity.
I am a proud holder of Iron Coin and Flat Earth Coin. I hold them both in cryptocurrency.
Fantastic.
Stuff that, get physicals.
Fantastic.
Gold and silver. Hold it yourself. Stick it somewhere. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Don't do cryptos. The system goes down, you're screwed, in my opinion. I think.
Well, it's coming out decentralized. There's new technology that is going to be impossible to stop it. They have war rooms trying to stop this cryptos because it's going to be completely anonymous, and it's technologically impossible to stop this awakening. We're taking over our new stationary flat Earth, and we're going to bring back heaven back on Earth. That's the way I feel it.
Sorry.
All those pedophile monsters that are in control of our flat Earth, we're taking back our power. We're not getting no more taxes. So they're not going to be able to fund any more wars.
Renee, you said earlier, you said at the start there you were holding meets and stuff. Was that? Are you meeting people locally? Did you say, and having meetings, or did I mishear that?
What was the question?
You were saying at the beginning there. I was just sideswiping, but you were saying at the beginning there you were having meetups locally and stuff yourself and that. Is that?
Yes, we do. We're having it's right here in Sunset Beach. We're actually our meetups is not just to say when we jump off the spinning ball, but to organize and to do activism and to create permanent markers when people can see how the Earth is actually flat and educate our children. And we're just getting together to wake up more people and help people, support them, and
where is that? Give it a proper shout out, mate, because that sounds wicked.
Right. Well, so our next one is going to be in Anaheim, and if you go to Mark Sargent's site, he advertised all the meetups. And you're going to be seeing the one in Sunset Beach, but the one that we have in next is going to be August the 3rd. And we're going to be meeting up there with, I think there's going to be a TV crew there, and mainstream media don't know what to make out of us. They're just perplexed of the truth. After swallowing all those lies and deceptions, they don't know what to think when they face the truth.
Zach, were you going to say something? I hear you pipe in there just a few minutes ago.
Oh, I was just saying it'd be a good idea to store some seeds. Silver and gold is fine, but you can't eat silver and gold.
Good man.
And when it all comes down to it, you need food, you need water, and you need to keep your body temperature within a certain degree. So those are the basics, and go from there. Once you get that procured, then you can worry about gold and silver and
That's right.
like that.
That's right. Look, if one of the things that will empower you to know that you're already on paradise, on a garden of abundance, go into a mountain and just be there for 6 months, live out of the ground, grow your own food, learn where all the fruit trees are, and you will realize that we're already in paradise. We don't need anything else. And there's technology out there for atmospheric water purification. There's technologies out there that are really going to free us to be off the grid. Solar power, magna gas. There's different technologies out there that are, thanks to the internet, that are going to revolutionize everything. You know, the currency, when I talk about cryptocurrencies, is more like bartering. Because, you know, we're going to be able to do different exchanges that are decentralized, that nobody can collect any taxes out of that. And we're going to be drifting away from the system, and eventually we're going to start our own cities, our own telephone systems that don't need satellites, and create an amazing paradise for our children.
It's really interesting to me that you said to go find your own mountain, because I wasn't really going to share this yet, but I guess I will. I just left my house for the last time, where I was living for about 6 years, and I'm not going back. I'm going to find my mountain.
That's right. Empower yourself, man. You know, learn about be your own doctor. Learn a new language, you know, learn how to navigate.
Yeah.
You know, the map of the flat earth is already on our heads. Did you know that there are tribes that in Hawaii that can circumnavigate the flat earth without any maps, just by your senses, empirical senses, the stars, the wind, the current.
I'm going to go find it, though. It's out there. We don't have to live like we are. We don't have to, and I'm going to show people that. I mean, it's gonna be different. It's definitely gonna, you know, I'm not gonna be able to flip on the Xbox and play a game when I want. You know, it's gonna be, like you said, about procuring food, going out and finding where the fruit trees are, and this and that, and knowing what I can and can't eat, and knowing how to take care of myself medicinally with things out of nature. I've been working on all of this for about 5 or 6 years, learning all this stuff, and
that's awesome. You know, because when you do that, brother, you are working with God. You are being part of the creation. If you ask God, He won't give you anything. But if you work with God, being part of the flow, harmonize with nature, learn everything about how to germinate, how to tell the time without any clocks, just by the shadows, that's when you're working with God. And that's our goal, so we can all go back to working, learn how to work with God and bring this beautiful abundance. I don't know if you ever heard of the Mayan or Aztec calendar timeline system.
I have it on my wall.
Both have you need to practice them, the 20-hour. The Globe Earth Society doctrine is 24 hours, 60 minutes each hour. The real timeline, timekeeping, is 20 hours, each hour 72 minutes. You do 72, when you wake up at the 5th hour, which is 6 o'clock in the morning, you could do 72 minutes of contemplation, meditation, pondering, visualization, snuggle your bunny. Then you do 72 minutes of action. What's that?
Have you called us before? Have we spoken with you before?
I'm not sure.
The reason I'm asking is I still have a timer set on my phone from a discussion we had with someone about this very thing maybe 6 months ago, 8 months ago, something like that. I may have even been in Oregon. It could have been longer ago. It could have been a year ago.
I think it was.
But I remember this discussion, and I set a timer on my phone to try to start doing that 20-hour day. We may have talked to you before, my friend. It seems very familiar.
That's right. And that's how, for example, our heart, when you are in compassionate love mode, is beating at 72 beats per minute. If you want the best temperature in the room, it's 72 degrees Fahrenheit. And the Earth is actually vibrating on the same binomials. When you round out the vibration of Earth, it's 8 cycles per second. It's on the same, but like the music, 432 hertz, A at 432
Absolutely,
hertz.
yes, sir.
The whole vibration, the whole Earth is vibrating, so why not harmonize with this system? And then you become more productive, you work less, your workers become very productive, relaxed, and creative, and they finish everything, and nobody gets hurt, and it's such a beautiful way of running your marriage, even. And you feel that you are in this, for example, because when you break down your day in 20 hours, you have each quadrant is 5 hours, right? Each quadrant has 360 minutes. And when the Bible and different nations, ancient nations talk about the 4 corners of the world, they're talking about those 4 quadrants because they're dividing the time in 4 perfect quadrants of 5 hours each. We have 5 fingers. We have 20 fingers, actually. So you start embracing that timeline and you work with God. Like you say, find your own mountain and be your own doctor. I don't know if you ever heard of the protocol of Jim Humble, the MMS protocol of Jim Humble.
That's a new
That
one
does
on
not
me.
sound at all familiar.
No,
It's not
I
familiar.
have not either. No.
Yeah, the MMS protocol of Jim Humble, they made it illegal, the FDA, because it balances your pH. It also removes all the heavy metals out of your brain.
Miracle mineral salt. Is it that?
Actually, I have heard of
Yeah,
it. Right now, I know what you're talking
Sorry.
about.
So, there's all this little common knowledge that is coming into life, and we're remembering that we're all brothers and sisters. When we do these beautiful meetups, people are saying, "Oh, Renee," they were telling me, "Oh, Renee, I used to come to this beach, and I used to see these people living at the ocean front. What is these people on the other side?" Now she was on the other side. So people are really getting together into, no matter if you are wealthy or if you're rich or if you're homeless, we're all the same in this flat earth movement. I feel that connection, that even your marriage could be more, becomes more important, more sacred when you realize, oh my God, we are on this beautiful dome firmament.
So Renee,
we have a creator.
You've heard what we've been chatting about tonight in terms of, and you've heard my little rant in terms of how we should be interacting with each other as flat earthers. Do you want to comment on? I don't know if you're aware of it, whether it's hit over your side. It's more interesting this side of the pond because it's going off, with UK flat earthers. Maybe would you elaborate on, your thoughts on discourse?
Yeah, but it's a family. The family is like that. But we all agree in one thing: we are stationary. And we're in this, whether some flat earthers are Christians, some flat earthers don't want to hear about religion, but we all have one common core, that we're not swallowing no more Star Trek, Deep Space, Star Wars fantasies, And we're in a different ground level. We're in higher ground. All of us that are awakened to this subject, and we're just gonna communicate and share everything that we do. I'm getting into building clocks, 20-hour clocks now.
That's awesome.
Absolutely. Send us your information whenever you get to a place you can do that. If you are just your email or whatever is easiest. We're ironrimmedia@gmail.com. Just send us some info so we can get in touch with you, and it sounds like you have a lot to talk about.
My name is Rene Calucea at gmail.com. ReneKalucea. I'm on Facebook, a public page, but I'm open to I don't care if they call me a flat earth. I'm not jumping back into the spinning ball,
I set my timer again. I found it and started it just a minute ago.
That was brilliant.
So I see that you guys doing a lot of activism in the UK.
Not really, no. We're a lot of chatting.
Really?
There's a lot of folks in the UK, not IRM, but there's a heck of a lot of folks doing street information.
Right,
yeah. Activism is a strong word. I think it's people going out there. I think there was I forgot the lady's name. Nathan will know. He sent me the link in chat in the week. But there was people down at Finsbury Park, which is the open forum for speaking, at the weekend, and I think there was a lot of flat earthers down there, and I think there's people like Dell that have led the kind of street activism thing. And when I was at the Flat Earth conference, actually, I was saying there's another community, the Facebook community, that I'd never, met till I got to the conference, and they were describing to me a lot of the street activism that they've been doing in Manchester and other places like that. So yeah, I take that back. Not personally, but yeah, there is probably a fair bit in the UK. I suppose over there as well.
You know what I've been doing? I've been doing my activism is more like I wake up really early. I go to the children's schools on the sidewalk, and I write with chalk on the sidewalk. Research flat earth, and all my little messages for the children.
That's good thinking.
That's great, man. I love that.
Well,
or I see a lot of kids that they congregate waiting for the bus. So I go the next morning and I make a nice, beautiful design with the dome and the earth, explaining them the North Star. So giving them a little bit of education while they're waiting for the bus stop,
Planting seeds. That's the way to do it, Renee. Well, you know what, Renee? We got a guest coming on here just shortly, so we're going to have to cut this one short a bit. But feel free to call back.
Thank you.
It was our pleasure. Thanks for calling in.
Thank you so much,
Thank you,
Nate.
brother.
Please definitely drop us a line either on Skype or on our Gmail so we can keep in touch, my friend. Thank you so much.
You do. Have a wonderful day, guys. Take care.
Well, that was nice. That was amazingly nice. And are we already approaching that time? I did not realize the hour and a half had flown by so quickly.
It's coming up to it. Well, we've hit about the hour mark.
What about the hour mark? Yeah, we've been at it for an hour and a half or so.
Or so.
Well, I was just about to say, I'm not sure. I've not heard from John yet, but he's literally... I just texted to Nathan in chat. He was saying, when's John on? I said, not sure. I think after his tea. And I think he must have finished his tea. Because I've got a green dot and he's just said here. So, if you're listening, John, maybe if we do a quick break and then come back, bring John in.
I think that sounds like a plan.
Sounds brilliant.
Yep.
I'm just smoking tonight. It's all good. So good. Give me 2 seconds and I'm just going to pick a song at random. Just pull one out there.
I love random songs.
Yeah? Let's see what I'll go with tonight. Right, bear with.
Could be anything.
Just Oak could pop up, couldn't it? Right. Let me swap that over.
I wait with bated
Well,
breath.
to be honest with you, I wasn't ready for that quicker transition, if I'm being honest. You know, as artists, need a little bit of time to prepare.
Absolutely. Well, we'll remind everyone that we also can be heard every Tuesday and Friday morning over on TFR. That's Truth Frequency Radio. It's your place where you can break clear of the fear with us as we examine the world around us and look at some of the idiocy that people actually believe out there. It's Josh and I, each and every Tuesday morning, right there on Truth Frequency Radio. Break clear of the fear. You can also find us. Go ahead, what?
That was perfect. I am ready when you gentlemen want to wrap it up. You mute your mic. I'm ready to rock and roll with a bit of gravity. That's what I came up with.
Absolutely.
All right, gents.
What a song. Do it.
Hey, gents.
Oh, gate crasher. Yes, sir.
What you got?
What are we doing?
We are just going to hit a break, and then we'll get John in here. And
Okay, I just wanted to apologize. I ran out of internet connection there, or just ran into a dead zone.
Zach, are you already pedaling on the bike?
Hey, if Renee, you're still listening, thanks, man. That was like fate right there. I mean, that was just,
Yeah.
I know what I'm doing is right. And that helped right there. That was one of those, more than a coincidence, you know.
Yeah.
But thank you so much, man. Yeah, that touched me. I appreciate it. Give me a few minutes, though. I'll take our break. I got to go. I just ran into my mom's house. I'm going to stay here at night, crash with her, and I'm heading out in the morning. So just give me a second, and then I'll be right back.
do your thing. I did want to take a minute to mention this is why Zach is one of my biggest heroes.
Yes, sir.
I'm always saying, if you you have to be the change that you want to see in the world, right? We can sit here and talk about all this stuff, legal theories and theories in law and theories in the shape of the earth, and we have lots of different things that we wish the world were different. The bottom line is it's the way it is because we as human beings have allowed it to become this way, and the only way it's going to change is when we as human beings start doing things a little bit differently, right? If you want what you've always got, keep doing what you've always done. Zach is living proof that it's possible. All it takes is the decision to do it, and then to do it. Just change it. You don't need everything that society tells you you need. And Zach is going to be living proof of that. And I just applaud him. And, I will be living vicariously through him because this is something I wished I could have done since I was probably 8 years old. Wish I could have just packed a bag and ran out of the house and never looked back and just lived off the land and been the creepy old guy living in the woods, because that totally would have been me. But
Oh yeah, that's what I'm
That's why we've all congregated here, because I've had that similar dream, and this is doing things to my heart and my soul, Zach, that I can't even explain. I am so grateful that you're sharing this with us. Oops, sorry, man. And thank you so much, brother. Thank you.
Oh, you gotta stop, man. You're gonna get me going again.
Hey, it's my turn, yeah. It's my turn, yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah. No, mate.
Oh,
As with the other guys, I have the utmost admiration. I think what you're doing's, you're the bravest out of the lot of us, is all I'll say. It takes real balls what you're doing, and I'm looking forward, as you said earlier, you're going to share a bit with us, and I'm really looking forward to it, bruv. And best of luck on your journeys. You know what I mean? We're going to need some like David Banner piano music for you to as you walk off to the next scene. So, yeah, well, Joe, if I was an Essex girl, is what I'd say.
thank you, gentlemen.
Throw
Oh, my
something
God.
together, maybe.
Oh man, it's pouring on some more emotions.
Well, this takes me to one other thing that Renee was saying, and it's about that sense of family. When you find another flat earther, when you just run across somebody and they're talking about flat earth, like, hey, this cat gets it. Think about that when you see somebody on YouTube saying water is not H2O, and it just completely goes against everything instinctually that you believe, remember what it's like when you run across another flat earther, because look, it is a family. And we need to just learn how to be gentle with each other, but still be able to speak up when we think something needs to be said. But just do it in a loving way, because we are all family. And look, we are all trying to get it here, and that puts us at least a few steps ahead of some other people. So rather than just trying to descend into hostility, which is the path of least resistance, interestingly enough. It's always easier to do that. Put forth that little bit of extra effort and just be civil. And that's all I got to say from Renee's call. We could just jump right into gravity now.
I'm on it, bro. Mute your mics, gents. There comes a bit of gravity.
Pretty high, our heads are almost in the clouds, and their feet are chained to the ground with their chains of misery. They've got a hold of me, they won't let go of me. Let go.
Okay, back to you, Josh.
Welcome back.
Smooth as a baby's bum.
Got me some coffee. Got my pen out. My paper out. It's time to be very, very quiet. We're hunting ballers.
Well, I've just made a mistake, so I'm just going to see if I can just find my quantum eraser. You started the shit jokes, so.
Well, I'll tell you what. You continued in line very strongly, sir. Way to keep up. Way to keep it up. Definitely ranks up there in the shit jokes pile.
I've just stuck John in. Hopefully, he'll join us in a second.
I suspect Walter's still caffeinating. He's high maintenance when it comes to his coffee.
I've opted for apple juice.
Hello?
Hello, John. How are you, mate?
Hey, good, gentlemen. How are you guys?
Yeah. Not too
Recovering
bad.
from another day at the slave job.
Oh, hey, are we live?
Yeah.
We are live.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. You're broadcasting across the plane.
Am I late?
Nope.
Perfectly fashionably on time, sir.
It's like
I pride myself on punctuality.
a quantum eraser is never late,
No.
nor is he early. He arrives precisely when he means to.
So what's going on? What's up today?
Well, we've had a good ramble first. Do you want to have a chip in on this water business first, John, before we start? I know you were probably having your tea, so you missed my ramble, but I thought I'd let you have it.
That water nonsense? That's about, I'll tell you what, that's 5 levels below no trees on flat Earth. I was in a good mood. I was in a good mood most of the day. I had some problems with my computer. Shout out to Anthony. Hooked me up. And I was in a good mood. Everything's going well. And then now here we go.
I think the one that made me laugh, right, I'd done the show, I'd gone on Nathan's show, and John texted me in the way. I was just saying, well, now you have to explain why fish don't liberate hydrogen while swimming. It's maybe it's time to consider what level you'll discuss, because I think there was one point in Nathan's show where people were suggesting that the oxygen in water that fish use was the similar reaction.
They break the hydroxyl bonds, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, and I think that kind of emphasises the point, really. Look, there's enough of us out there that are contactable and stuff, and we all have fucking great ideas, but sometimes if we're doing stuff out there, you're doing, as Anthony says, you're doing us more on than good in the long run. If we're just throwing brain farts out there all the time. But there's enough of a community out there. If we've got ideas, yeah, we don't have to join a club. It doesn't cost money, but you can contact people left, right, and centre. That's how I've met John. Do you know what I mean, and stuff. And we can work together on this stuff and invest our time a lot more efficiently, and then the way we're doing it at the moment, I think.
Yeah, but we're going back to the alphabet when I'm in English 300, right? We should be in English 300 by now. Not going back and saying, okay, did A start this? Does B come after A? I don't know. I mean, I was in, it had to be elementary school, right? All I remember is taking hydrogen gas. It's probably 5th or 6th grade. I can't remember which one it was. In general science, right? We had a little lab in there, and the teacher put a little bit of hydrogen gas, just a tiny bit, inside a test tube, right? And each of us had a spark. And he goes, okay, all you got to do is just hit this spark, right? And ta-da, water, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. Am I the only one who's done this?
No. I described that. That's how you take the two gas products, from the electrolysis and how you test them, because then you can take that water and you do actually have exceptionally pure water.
Yeah, and the teacher, he gathered all the test tubes from all of us, right, and poured all the water, and there wasn't that much, and poured all the water into one test tube, and then he drank it. And what I can remember from it, I can remember the smell, right? There was something about the smell of the hydrogen that I always think about. I can distinctly remember that. So
that could have been your teacher drinking all that dirty water like that, to be fair.
Yeah, it could have been. Yeah. So I don't know. It's ridiculous to me. And we're going to talk, maybe we're going to get into an aspect of that probably pretty quickly into the presentation, and you're going to see why. Not so much the H2O part, but the chemistry part. I'll stop when I get there.
Well, maybe that's the best segue we've ever had.
Certainly was.
Oh, you want me to start the presentation already?
Mate, it's entirely up to you. I'm just... Not
Everyone
now. You've ruined the segue now. No, not necessarily.
No. Start over. Go somewhere else. We'll try it again in a few minutes.
It seems like, people just want me for my presentations. I mean, they don't want to know who I am, inside.
I
gotta tell you, that's not the case here. I would love to get to know the real quantum eraser, the real John, a little bit more.
I don't know about that. Too funny, man.
Well, I think that's, mate, if you would share that with us, kind of like because you've got a bit of a fierce reputation, shall we say?
Really?
Yeah, no shitting, bro. Yeah. Yeah, you know what I mean, and like, I think you're like Nathan's heavy artillery, and it was noticeable today. He asked you to summarise it because there was just such a level of nonsense there that he asked you just to kind of pull it out and summarise, and maybe you could explain where you've honed those skills and where they've come from. That'd be
Well, let's start off at the beginning. I was born in the year of our Lord, 1900, 3 No, I'm only kidding, man.
No. Well, I9 was that, and 3.
Say again?
I9 and 3.
9 and 3. Where did I get that from? I'll probably, we all have different backgrounds, and everything we go through make us who we are. And, I'm retired military, so my BS meter is pegged, 24/7, 365, and I'm pretty, dogmatic about things. I'm pretty assertive. A lot of people take that as arrogant and pompous. Where I came from, that was just, the SOP or standard operating procedure. So I really don't know any other way. And then, of course, I have a background in biochemistry and genetics, and my passion is quantum mechanics. So I learned all this stuff, like I said, especially the science part, just basic general science in 5th grade, right? The scientific method was the scientific method. It was real easy. I remember seeing it up on the board, and I said, yeah, that makes sense, And what we did, we followed it, and we did experiments, even in grade school. It got a little bit more in depth in junior high, but not that much so. It was the same method. It hadn't changed. I went to university. We used, guess what? The scientific method. It wasn't a big shock. It was the same one. It didn't change. And then in my professional career, we used the scientific method. I know this is shocking to most. It didn't change. It stayed the same. So, after I retired from the military and got out, and then had a little spare time, I ran into all these people talking on the internet, evolution, cosmology, astronomy, all the Einstein, Newtonian mechanics, and all that stuff. And I'm sitting there, okay, well, these people are talking about all this stuff. They must know. I mean, this must follow the scientific method. And I start looking at it, and I'm sitting there, hello, this isn't science. And I started, I guess I was naive, to begin with when I got out here. It's like amateur night. These people need to go back to picking up cans alongside of the road and not talk about, these things. They're just parroting these things from Wiki or the Discovery Channel. I'm sitting back here looking at all this stuff, laughing at these people. I'm sorry, I don't mean to be rude, but it looks like it looks like the Three Stooges out here. Everyone. So I guess that's why I come off as pompous and stuff, because I'm just shaking my head at most people. They shouldn't be out here. Like I said, go back to your true vocation, picking up cans alongside of the road. It's okay. We need people to pick up cans alongside of the road, right? We need people to pick up trash. It's okay to do those things. Listen, I was a grunt for nearly half my career. I know what it is to be down there in the mud. Nothing wrong with that. I loved it. Best people in my life I met there. And the smartest people, by the way. They were grunts, right? All heart, baby.
We're all grunts, mate.
So I guess, I don't know, that gets you. I like jogging in the rain. My dislikes are bad breath and globetards. Is that good enough? Does that give you a mindset of where I'm coming from?
I think so. Jogging in the rain. I dig it.
Like jogging in the rain, nice moonlit nights on the beach. That's about it. I think that puts about everything into a neat capsule. I guess you can get sort of the mindset where I'm coming from.
That's exactly. I mean, the bit I was alluding to in terms of you coming into this arena and debating ballers is you'd been doing this for years, not in a flat Earth sense, but in terms of discussing all sorts of stuff within science.
Yeah, it was. I started off with the evolution fairy tale. Yeah. I mean, I couldn't believe it. Then it got into Newtonian mechanics and Einsteinian. The Einsteinian deal, and then of course all the other things. And I'm sitting there, evolution. That's a belly laughing joke. I can't even believe people are still think that that's even viable. They can't even define it. I've had PhD microbiologists, cellular biologists, molecular biologists. Right? I've asked them straight up. Can you just define the scientific theory of evolution for me, please? Right? I did that like 12 years ago. Guess what? They couldn't do it. So I couldn't believe it. I mean, I'm sitting there, you're a PhD, molecular biologist. I tell you what, I told him, I said, well, just give me a hypothesis regarding anything, right? Just on anything. They couldn't even do that. PhDs.
Evolution was well before flat Earth. Evolution, John, was one of my, the more you go up, the more you have questions in terms of stuff, as you should do. And by the time I'd finished my course, evolution was, I'd started out, Christian as a kid and atheist by the time I was at university, and by the time I'd been out of university for EOT, really was one of the most questionable things that started me.
Right.
Just questioning what you're taught, do you know what I mean? Not in any other sense than that, but starting to look at it that way. I mean, evolution is the biggest. And the biggest one that always did me was kind of realising in terms of evolution. They go, you got all these millions, billions of years. Well, you haven't, because as far as I'm aware, even on their time scale, you wiped the dinosaurs out 65 million years. So as far as I can see, you've got 65 million years to turn a mole into me. or a rat into me, not hundreds and hundreds and billions of years. You got very finite.
That's not evolution.
Wow.
See what I mean?
I didn't think we'd start this early.
Yeah, see what I mean? Because I'm going to say that's not the scientific theory of evolution. What is the scientific theory of evolution? And let me just,
at no point I'm not speaking again. Go.
yeah. Let me give you a news flash. Don't even try it because it doesn't exist. There's not anything there. It's nothing. It's just smoke and mirrors. I forgot a very important point, gentlemen, and it would be unfair for me to go on from this point. Listen, I'm a flat, non-spinning, domed, geocentric, young Earth creationist. So for your audience out there, let there be no mistake about that. All right?
You just want to say that again, just so people's got every bit, so there is no need to comment and go, oh yeah, go. So you're
flat.
Do it again.
I'm a flat, non-spinning, domed, geocentric, young Earth creationist, and I'm one of those unique ones. I can validate all of those. So when you have your little stories out there, and listen, I don't know who your audience is, Adam, but most people, all they say, well, there is no proof of this. There's no proof of that. They just parrot stuff. Yeah, there is. And I'm your huckleberry. So you guys got me all fired up.
Did we do that, or is that just a natural progression?
It's just a natural progression. Funny, too funny, man. I'll try to keep it lower key. I mean, who's your audience? I'm not familiar with your audience. Who's your audience?
You just be yourself. I don't. Just be yourself, bro. That's all we are.
Yeah. So in my other profession, I was an educator for about 6 years. So I got a little bit of that background with me too, and that's certifiable. So if anybody wants to check on that, I'm certifiable. Yeah, but that, all those experiences and stuff make you who you are, right?
Yeah, totally.
So, and I don't put up with any friggin' BS. I just don't do it. If I don't know about a subject, like if you start like today, perfect example. My computer was all screwed up. Listen, I'm as deaf as a post when it comes to this thing, right? I didn't grow up with these things. I grew up in the late 60s, early 70s, man. I don't know jack about this. And when a subject comes up and I don't know anything about it, guess what you're going to hear? Crickets. Because I'm going to keep my pie hole shut, right? And this is what a lot of people out there need to do also. If there's a subject that comes up and you're not proficient in it, and we're going to go over this here in a few minutes, you need to just shut your incoherent pie holes and just listen. Maybe ask questions, but just listen, right? My buddy was an expert mechanic, right? They called him the car medic. He knew everything about every single car. He could fix anything, right? And we'd always hang out together. But when there was a car down there in his garage and there was a bunch of people standing around, guess what? They had to send a search party out for me. Like, where'd John go? He didn't even say anything. No, I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to make a horse's ass out of myself, right?
That's something I've repeated once or twice here on the show.
I was going to say, I'm not. I can't sit in that camp.
It's better to keep your mouth shut and appear the fool than to open your mouth and to prove it.
Remove all doubt. That's correct. That's correct. It's a good mantra to live by, from where I'm coming from. So yeah. So, did that give you an overall picture? You got an image?
I think so.
And then throw some attitude in there with it, and look out.
Well, over on my personal Twitter page at JRCorey77, my Twitter bio, actually reads that frothy eloquence neither convinces nor satisfies me. I'm from Missouri. You've got to show me.
That's right. Now, I'm not from Missouri originally. I was born in the home of the world champion Pittsburgh Steelers. However, I'm sitting here in middle Missouri, and you're going to have to show me. Got it?
I like it.
I like that. I like that little the post that you did. It was perfect. You from Missouri?
I am from Missouri. That's
Really?
actually how we got our what do they call it? Slogan, the motto, the state motto is the "Show Me State," just from that particular quote.
Oh yeah, we're about, you know. You don't have to give the location. You don't want to give, security reasons.
I will absolutely give it. It's O'Fallon, Missouri. I'm about 40 miles west of St. Louis.
Oh, okay. I'm near Springfield.
Oh, see, that's perfect. We're just a straight shot down 70. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, sort of, not really. 44.
44.
You're more south.
44, man.
That's it. Yep, I grew up traveling up and down Highway 44 in Missouri.
Yeah, I call it Truck 44. Because there's thousands of trucks, man.
And they drive scary on Highway 44.
They do not. I don't care what weather it is. I was driving in freezing rain. The roads were a sheet of ice, and I was trying to putt along, right, being real careful. Right by.
Yep.
They don't care. Yeah.
I'm sure this is absolutely fascinating for all the listeners, but
I'm sure it is.
Things to talk about.
That's right. They need to listen up and be friggin' happy with what they got.
That's right. Because shit's about to get real, I have a feeling.
And then stop complaining.
I was about to say, it's a good job Savage in here, otherwise we'd be on plumbing by now. So, shall we?
Let's.
You want to? So you want to?
What do old men talk about? Roads. That's what my father-in-law comes to. Or if I'm going somewhere, he comes and tells me. They've got this road, I've got this road. I've got to go down this road. And let me get the map out, show you.
Are you saying I'm old?
I'm just saying it's what old men do when they get together. So there's a joint character assassination of which I include myself. But you did say 60s and 70s. See, I'm 70s, 80s, so you've probably got a few years on me, John.
I told you I was born in the year of our Lord, 1900, 3 3. That's 1963.
10, yeah. I'll show more respect then.
No. Respect isn't garnered by age. Respect is garnered by character and intestinal fortitude.
No, you've earned that, mate. And that was kind of one of the things that pricked my ears up was somebody stating what you're on the presentation going to do, because it was a real good slap in the face, refresher course, however you'd want to describe it. But it was great to hear, and I think it'd be good for people to listen and really remember. You remember it well from your childhood, your scientific method, but it was good the first time I heard this. Quite a while ago now.
You want to go, or you guys got anything more?
I need time to prep, but yeah. So if you're ready to go, I can prepare to go.
Wait 1 second. Let me share my screen.
Give me 1 second, bruv.
And I will say that I watched your presentation over on Nathan Oakley 1980s channel 3 times probably since the last time we spoke, in the last 2 weeks, I guess, week and a half or whatever it was.
Which one?
The science versus scientism, the one you did over there.
Now, which presentation? I've done a whole bunch of presentations.
It was basically what you're going to do here tonight.
Okay.
Basically the same thing. And just been completely enthralled by it, because I feel like this is definitely a tool that everybody needs to have in their tool belt. I think the better flat earthers understand this material, the more powerful we will become exponentially. And even Nathan's shows become more entertaining. Once Nathan grasped these concepts and just took a hold and ran with it, it just became a slaughterhouse over there, and just so much fun to watch and listen to.
Well,
I thank you for that.
Nathan's a quick study. He's very articulate, right? And he's direct to the point. And another really good thing is they discussed, even before I was around, that the modus operandi of these globetards is to start on a subject, right? And then as soon as you pin them down, they'll divert. So those guys caught on to it really fast. And now Nathan always brings them back to the point. I love it, right? I love it. I think they're through. They ain't going to come into that show. They're going to send in kids and drunks and stuff just to sacrifice them, because there's no ballers going in there. No way.
That's not prophecy. That isn't. That's a summary.
They ain't going in there. They'd be out of their minds to go in there straight.
The Rumpus has been trying, but he's banned, isn't he? He's not allowed because he's not kept his word.
Yeah, that was one category. People with mental illness also go in there. So, I mean, there's clear. Listen, I'm not trying to be derogatory to anybody, but listen, what I call a spade, and there's some mental illness out here, people, and you all experienced it. I'm not preaching to the choir. So I just call a spade a spade. If you want somebody to come in and just tell you what the deal is, just call me. I'll just tell you.
I think, in the fairness to have all possible hypotheses, there is the chance that there could just be a good paycheck in it.
Oh, that part. Yeah, I'm not going after their intent. I really don't care. I just go after their argument, and they don't have an argument. They never did, never will. So it's really easy defending the truth, right? It's not that difficult, because you know they're lying, and you just have to find out where the lie is. That's it. It's that easy. So there you go. That's my philosopher. That's the philosopher in me, I guess.
Well, as an Elmer Fudd who likes to surround himself with people a lot smarter than he is, and then just keep his mouth shut, so people just think I'm part of that smart crowd. Just remember, there are going to be a lot of people out there that don't have your advanced understanding of all this, so you might have to dumb it down for some of us at some point, just as a heads up.
Yeah, but you don't need to be a rocket scientist with 90% of this. It's just launch pad security stuff, right? Yeah, and I'll break it down. I break it down as far as I can. And like I said, you really don't need anything all that more complicated than really the scientific method. And another important thing is to take a course in identifying logical fallacies. Because you're going to get bombarded with them out here, brother. That's my advice. The scientific method, and learn logical fallacies. It comes from experience too, just hearing it. Hearing the arguments over and over and over again, they're ridiculous. So that would be my advice. Like I said, it's not rocket science. It's just launchpad security.
John, real quick, there's a question in chat from Rune Thornson.
I know him.
If there was one point in the scientific method that you would consider crucial, which one would it be? Which one do you think is the most important that we get and understand the best?
Hypothesis.
That first step, imagine that.
No. Hypothesis. Third step.
Oh, third step. Hypothesis. Okay.
Yeah, just to learn how to make a hypothesis. That's all you need. If experiment is the king of the scientific method, the queen is hypothesis. It gives birth to the king. How about that? That was quite poetic.
That was a bit deep as well. That was a bit chicken and egg. It was a little metaphysical.
Oh, brother. Yeah. That's what I would say, hypothesis. Once you figure out what a hypothesis is, then everything flows from it, right? And it's not that hard. We'll go through a couple here in the presentation. It's really easy.
That's the best. That's the second best link I've
Second
heard.
best segue. Yeah, I was going to say now I think it'd be the best time to jump right.
So you guys just want me for my presentations, right?
Just get on with it.
I guess I ruined it.
Right, if you share that should. I'll transfer
All right.
it to full screen.
Let me
then,
try it.
John.
Oh, wait one. You tell me when it's up.
Okay, yeah, you're full screen, mate. All
Full
yours.
screen. We ready to go?
All yours, pal.
All right. Listen, I usually start off with my paleontology, the pseudosciences, but I'm not going to start out with that this time. I'm going to start out with this. Now, 100% disclosure. I wrote this with an attitude, right? I looked over it yesterday and I said, I'm just going to let it go. So I'll try to be nicer I'll try to read it nicely. I don't think it comes across that well, but I'll stop after this to see if you guys have any comments on it. So every flat earther needs to intently study, and this is Nathan Oakley 1980 channel, the Flat Earth Debates 343 and 344, right? Going to write those down. In my humble opinion, it was the single greatest performance by a flat earther that I've ever witnessed. For the past, I've been here a little over 2 years now. I have never seen anything like it. This is the standard, right? So, like I was talking about before you go out and frequent these debate circles, just to hear your own voice and make a horse's ass out of yourself, and by proxy, your fellow flat earthers, you need to listen to these two debate shows over and over again to permanently imprint this standard of performance in your mind. Now, if you can't reach this standard of performance, which admittedly is quite high, then shut your incoherent pie holes and remove yourself from debate. Right friggin' now. That goes for all you so-called 3+ year veterans also. We don't train to time here. We train to standards. Now, if I catch you out here pretending to be a neurosurgeon when your acumen can't exceed your true vocation, that's picking up cans alongside of the road, I'm going to get medieval on you. We tracking Sallies. So if you have an ounce of intellectual and emotional integrity, sit back, listen carefully, take notes, hit rewind multiple times, research, study, and prepare yourself thoroughly before you even consider coming out here. So for everything sacred and holy, if you've been out here pretender clowning, stop. I see you, okay? Just to let you know, I see you. I'm aware of you. Cease and desist. Now, many people might take that the wrong way. Listen, if you want to come out here and talk about cake decorating, right, or your favorite football team, and that's real football, man football, NFL football, not the girly football.
I'm not letting that slide. I'm not having that. We've been getting on fine, haven't we, really?
Now, if you want to come out here and you want to talk about that stuff and you want to talk to people and share your opinions and stuff, I have no problem with that. But don't you come out here friggin' embarrassing the flat earth community with your friggin' nonsense, right? That's fair. I think everyone can adjudicate those two things, right? I'm not telling you what to do with your opinions and stuff. We all got them. You can share them. I'm not telling you not to. You want to talk about flowers or cake decorating and stuff like that, just go do it. I don't care. That's fine. I may listen and, listen in. But don't come out here talking about science about your opinions, right? Or what you think it is, or parrot and wiki. Because I see you, right? You're not hiding. Any questions with this gentleman?
Nope, that's pretty straightforward.
No, sir.
and I'm not trying to intimidate anyone. If you think that this is jacked up, go ahead and tell me. Am I wrong here or what?
Nope. The message is on point.
Yeah, don't let me intimidate you now.
I think
If you got an objection, you pipe up.
I think I was making a similar point in a less direct manner earlier.
Okay.
If you listen. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't listen. I was eating.
I said you were having your tea.
It wasn't tea, it was pizza.
Oh, very nice.
Extra cheese, pepperoni, and mushrooms.
Yes, I could go a slice now, to be fair, John.
And it was late. Me and my son, we were dying. So, okay, any questions on this? This is pretty self-explanatory.
Yep.
All right. So now the good stuff, right? I always start off each presentation now talking about this because I feel it's very important. And it may open a lot of people's eyes to the fraud. Okay, so what we got here is we got paleontology, anthropology, archaeology, geology, evolutionary biology. Yeah, I'm still laughing. Theoretical physics, not experimental. And then astrophysics, astronomy, and cosmology. These are not frigging sciences, okay? Not sciences. They go by the term science, but they don't have anything to do with it. Crocheting is more scientific than these clowns combined. Why? The first 6 pretenders can't get to the first step of the scientific method. Science, observe a phenomenon without a time machine. The final 3 masqueraders, these guys, you know, the ones that we deal with in this genre, they can't formulate scientific hypotheses because they lack viable independent variable. So, if you can't form a hypothesis, you can't isolate, test, and validate your dependent variables or your predictions. And we're going to discuss this here in a few minutes. That's a scientific hypothesis. It's a hard stop. Listen, if you're a banana, then a banana has certain characteristics or traits that it has to satisfy, right? Bananas, they grow on trees. You know, they're green, yellow, purple, brown, red. They're chock full of complex carbohydrates and potassium. And if you put them in the freezer, it destroys the B6 in them. That's what makes bananas bananas and separates them from tumbleweeds, okay? It's the same thing with science. If you don't have a hypothesis, independent, dependent variable, and an experiment, then it's not science. You can't just call it that by fiat. Don't do it, because if you do it around me, there's an ass whooping coming. Now, the true sciences are physics, that's quantum mechanics, genetics, chemistry, you H2O deniers out there, biochemistry, and biology. Now, I've started recently caveating this last guy because there's a difference between, you know, molecular and cell biology and the convention categorizers, the collators. You know, they're just glorified secretaries. I'm not talking about those people. I'm talking about molecular and cellular biology. These are the true sciences, right? They're the true sciences because they can use the scientific method. And most of the time they do. As opposed to these clowns up here, they can't even get in. Like I said, the first 6 can't get into the scientific method to begin with. And the second group, astrophysics, astronomy, and cosmology, they can't formulate scientific hypotheses. So if you don't have a scientific hypothesis, you're not a banana. Period. End of story. I don't have to go on any further. Right? So there's another caveat here, too. Each claim from any of these disciplines must be accompanied by experiment, preferably repeated, validating each and every claim. If there's no experiment, even from these guys, no experiment, then it's horse bucky. You can dismiss it, right? However, all all of the other things that these disciplines have validated via experiment are still good, right? They're good to go. So like I said, these are the sciences, right? And what happens here is that your war out there, flat earthers, isn't against these guys. How many of these guys are out there talking about spinning ball Earth? Not many, are there? Well, there's a reason for that, because they're in their lane, right? Dealing with science and experiment.
John, I like chemistry being in there, but you mentioned biochemistry and biology, but cellular biology particularly, and that, for me, was the big ball breaker for evolution. When I started to get into and look at cellular biology, it was the one thing that just made the silly little story, undetailed story of evolution just complete nonsense. The true wonder of cellular biology is just.
I can remember back in the day taking an 80 level, when I first started out, taking an 80 level biology course, looking through a microscope. I can't remember the cell I was looking at, and seeing all the processes and stuff. And I looked up and I said, I said this to myself. I didn't need to say it to anybody. If you don't think there's a God, you must be an abject moron. I mean, that's what I remember saying it to myself, and I already knew that before I got in there, but I can remember saying it to myself and just moving on. But I agree with you, Adam. Yeah, most definitely. Now, like I said, our war isn't with these guys, so don't try to challenge these guys, Mr. friggin' H2O, water. Don't do it, because you're going to get jacked up. You're going to get hit in the head with a nail-spiked Louisville 44-inch Louisville slugger, right? Like what's happening to you now. I don't know who brought this nonsense up, and I don't really care, right? Bring that H2O weak meat around me, and I'll friggin' jack it yard. Moron.
We specifically scheduled them on a separate week for what it's worth.
Yeah, I hope they're listening. All right, like I said, I'm getting off the path here. Okay, like I said, each of these disciplines need experiment, right? You got to have experiment. Experiment is king of science. So, also, do not fallaciously indict these sciences, the true sciences, by what the baloney that comes out of these guys. See, you're in a category error. These aren't sciences. So don't put these guys in the science category and say, well, since these guys been lying and make up stuff, then therefore these aren't true, right? It's non sequitur from the Black Lagoon. Don't do it. I mean, most of the technology and stuff, I don't know. Can you tell me the MRI machine that anthropology has put forward? You know, when you get these clowns saying, yeah, well, science, we have all this technology. It's what you're science deniers. Oh, really? Huh. Like I said, where's the MRI machine from paleontology, right? Or evolutionary biology? Where's that at? Right? There is none, because these are clowns, right? All that technology's coming from this guy right here, right? All the medical and genetics is coming from the true sciences, not from these guys. So come on, people. You know, don't just parrot the company line. Think on your feet. All right, into the science. Any questions on this, gentlemen?
No, I think I'd echo the point, John, as you're saying there, that as you've titled them there, the true sciences, they're the ones that produce the technology for people to craft stories.
Well, they validate their hypotheses via experiment. That's science. Now, what engineers do, they take what the scientists have validated, and then the engineers take that and produce technology. So science and technology are different, right? Mm-hmm. Be careful of that, because a lot of engineers think they're scientists, right? I got a news flash for them, right? So I love those engineers. Not that we don't need them. Engineers are great, man. They're smart people, right? We need those guys. It's just not science. So don't be masquerading. All right. Here, this is science, right? Science is nothing more than a method of inquiry. That's it. That's all it is. This is from Michael Crichton, testimony before the U.S. Senate Committee in 2005. That's all it is. That's it. All right? Scientific evidence from the law dictionary. So I have to bring out law dictionaries and stuff. See, scientific evidence, the testing of a hypothesis or theory that is objective and in a controlled environment. It's pretty easy, right? You see any equations and models and pictures in here? I didn't think so. So stop with this nonsense. And this is another big one. Well, you're just being semantic. You're just too semantic. No. From physics about words have precise meanings in science. You have to be very precise when you speak. It's the nature of the beast. And here it is. Let me knock this down. This is what I seen in 5th grade, right here. You guys see this? So, the scientific method. Now, I highlighted the 4 of them because that's what we want to deal with. I'm not saying that the other 3 aren't important. They're just the 4 that stand out. So, observe a natural phenomenon, construct a formal hypothesis, test experiment, and validate invalidate hypothesis. That's pretty much it. Literature, out of all of them, literature review is pretty important. When you observe a phenomenon, you want to do a literature review. That is, you want to go in and find out as much information as can be found on the topic that you're focusing on, right? Just makes sense. You don't want to observe a phenomenon and then just go in a vacuum and do your experiment and stuff. Why? Somebody may have already done it, right? Or if they haven't did it, you gather as much information as you can. And let me tell you something. This is a really important step. You know why? Because if you're in a lab, let's say you're in a lab and you decide, well, I'm going to conduct this experiment. You don't do any literature review, right? And you start conducting the experiment. You got all these man hours, right? And all the time spent, and all the money spent on the equipment, right? And then you go ahead and perform the experiment, and it's done. And here comes your boss, right? Now, let me tell you something. If he finds out that you didn't do step number 2, and the experiment's already been done, and you just redid the experiment, wasted a whole bunch of time, man hours, money, right? You're going to be picking up cans alongside of the road before you can say independent variable. Just so we're tracking, right? So these guys are important too. I just didn't highlight, right? And they're echoed from the University of Rochester, basically saying the same thing. They boil them down to 4 steps. Observation of it should be natural phenomenon, because these crayon munchers, they don't even know what science is. Science is a study of nature. Formulation of hypothesis, experimental test, you got it. That's what science is. This is one of the most important statements, right? Again, from the University of Rochester, the scientific method distinguishes science. Now, it's distinguishing it from other forms of explanation because of its requirement of what? Systematic experimentation. That's what sets it apart. So if you don't have an experiment, you're not doing science. I don't know how. This is a great statement. I love this statement, right? It's apodictic, but many people don't think about it, right? They think their explanation is science because maybe they have some initials behind their name or something. I don't know. They must be drunk. This is very easy if it doesn't have experiment, right? The king of the scientific method, it's not science. So, experiment. What is it? Well, it's a hypothesis test. So, from Luar's Introduction to Theory and Application of Molecular and Quantum Mechanics, the final arbiter of truth in science is experiment. Duh. From the chair of physics at Yale, the only way things change in physics is experiment. Everything is based on experiment. That's the only way we change our mind. Duh. From Richard Feynman, if it doesn't agree with experiment, it's wrong. And that simple statement is the key to science. Duh. From Max Planck, experiment is the only means of knowledge at our disposal. Everything else is poetry, imagination. Duh. That's what we hear. Every day we hear poetry and imagination. The scientific method requires that a hypothesis be ruled out or modified if its predictions are clearly and repeatedly incompatible with what? Experimental tests. No matter how elegant your theory is, it must agree with experiment. Experiment is supreme. Experimental verification of hypothetical predictions is absolutely necessary, right? I don't know how this can get any clearer. What constitutes an experiment? Well, from Penn State University, there should be 3 categories of variables in every experiment: the dependent, independent, and controlled. All right? From explorable.com, they're a research institution. There are 3 important variables you have to remember when you're designing your experiment. What are they? A shocking surprise: independent, dependent, and controlled. Even a wiki experiment. An experiment is a procedure carried out to support, refute, or validate a hypothesis. Duh. Experiments provide insight into cause and effect by demonstrating what outcome occurs when a particular factor is being manipulated. What's that particular factor being manipulated? Pray tell. Right? It's your independent variable. Duh. So, like I said, if experiment is the king of the scientific method, the queen is the scientific hypothesis. It gives birth to the experiment. You have to have a hypothesis before you have an experiment. A scientific hypothesis is your experiment statement. It expresses a testable proposed cause and effect relationship. If it's not cause and effect relationship, if it's not a cause and effect question, it's not a scientific question. That should turn on some lights for a lot of people, hopefully. So it's a cause and effect relationship, the one you observed in step 1. You observed the phenomenon. Now you're trying to find the cause of that effect. It's a classic if this then that motif. So, from Nature, California Institute of Technology physicist Sean Carroll, arguing in the edge that hypotheses aren't simply useful tools in some potentially outmoded vision of science. They are the whole point. Duh. Why does he even need to say this? I mean, Sean Carroll, he's about as clueless as they come, but he still knows, right? It's the whole point. The scientific method requires that a hypothesis be ruled out or modified if its predictions are clearly incompatible with experimental tests. We already went over that one. From Colorado State, a scientific hypothesis, a special kind of prediction that forecasts how the independent variable will affect the dependent variable. Well, that's saying that to have a scientific prediction, not a Mystic Meg prediction, not a Nostradamus prediction or a carnival tent prediction, you must have an independent and dependent variable, period, end of story, have a nice day. A scientific from Lowell, C from Cambridge, a scientific hypothesis is based on what? Well, the experiment is testing cause and effect, and it's the king. It's born from scientific hypotheses, the queen. If the experiment is cause and effect, you bet your bottom dollar the hypothesis has to deal with cause and effect too, right? What a shocking surprise. Scientific hypothesis is based on cause and effect reasoning. Duh. Right? The scientific method is hypothesis-driven. Duh. From Geosociety, from the nature of science and the scientific method. The hypothesis should also contain a prediction about its verifiability. For example, if the hypothesis is true, then 1 should happen when 2 is manipulated. The first blank, number 1, is the dependent variable. It depends on what you're doing in the second blank. And the second blank, number 2, is the independent variable. This is what you manipulate to get a reaction. there should be no other variables in the experiment that may affect the dependent variable, right? What's ironic about this, geology isn't science, right? But they know the lingo. They just don't apply it. This is all correct. You couldn't get any more correct than this, right? They're just pseudoscience. They don't actually employ this. They know it, though, and they tell you that they do it. They give you these definitions like that and say, wow, then geology, they're right. Geology must be science. Nope. So, independent variables, what are they? From Penn State, it is what is varied during an experiment. It is what the investigator thinks will affect the dependent variable. From Colorado State, the independent or manipulated variable that is changed by the scientist, what the investigator is testing. From Physics About, the two main variables in an experiment are the independent and dependent variable. An independent variable is the variable that is changed or controlled in a scientific experiment. You see the common theme going on here? From University of North Carolina, in an experiment, the independent variable is the variable that is varied or manipulated by the researcher. Shocking, what a surprise. And the dependent variable is the response that is measured. An independent variable is the presumed cause, whereas the dependent variable is the presumed effect. In other words, the independent variable is the antecedent, whereas the DV or the dependent variable is the consequent. So let's take a look at an example here. This is very important. So, hypothesis, if vitamin C intake is crucial to collagen integrity in humans, then eliminating vitamin C intake will cause scurvy. Now, my independent variable here is vitamin C. Now, vitamin C is the presumed cause. However, vitamin C isn't a presumption. I'm not presuming vitamin C exists. I have it. I can physically manipulate vitamin C. There's some out there in my kitchen. I know what it is. I can grab it, right? So it isn't a presumption in and of itself. It's your presumed cause. Big difference. Big difference, right? I hope you guys caught that. We might need to come back here. You might make a mental note of that. Also, remember, viable independent variables must satisfy 3 criterion. Now, I used to say 2 criterion, but I've been attacked by crayon munchers, so I added number 3. So, number 1, it's your presumed cause. Number 2, the researcher must be able to vary and manipulate it. Number 3, the independent variable must demonstrably exist before you use it in an experiment, okay? I added number 3. This is the crayon muncher special at the bottom, okay? Just to tie off any loose ends. So all 3 criterion must be satisfied. All of these must be satisfied, not just one of them. Now, a new kid on the block. This is so incoherent. I couldn't believe somebody tried to do this to me, and then somebody caught a hold of what he said. He did it on one of Nathan's Hangout, and then the other ones just started parroting, height, depth, width, length. No, these are not viable independent variables, for goodness sakes, right? Number 1, the submarine was crushed at a depth of 10,000 feet, right? Well, did depth cause the sub to implode, or was it pressure? You see? The gentleman was so obese he measured 1 meter wide. Well, did width cause obesity or laziness combined with excessive calories? Does time cause the sun to rise? Does time cause the difference between the scores between the first and third quarters? You see how silly this is? Abject silliness. I don't know what to say to this. So, when you have your hypothesis, you always have to have its brother, and that's the null hypothesis. And what is that? Well, from California State University, to do a hypothesis test, that's experiment, you will actually have to have two hypotheses, the null hypothesis and the alternative. These are stated in such a way that they are mutually exclusive. You can't have both hypotheses be true. The null hypothesis is the conclusion that is considered the default. You will accept this hypothesis if you fail to find sufficient support for the alternative hypothesis. We're going to go over a couple examples here so you'll get a feel for it. Again, the null hypothesis, the zero difference or no difference, that's what null means, no difference, predicts that changing one variable, the independent variable, will have no effect on the variable being measured, dependent variable. So the alternative and the null hypotheses are stated in such a way that they are mutually exclusive. Both can't be true. So let's go over an example. So, but remember the scientific method, the first step is observe a phenomenon. So healthy type 1 diabetics suffer from diabetic ketoacidosis, apparently from the absence of adequate insulin. So our alternative hypothesis, given otherwise healthy type 1 diabetes patients, the lack of insulin will lead to diabetic ketoacidosis. Now, let's take a look at the null. It's the same exact thing as the alternative hypothesis, right? Except for, or besides, instead of will, the independent variable will not lead to diabetic ketoacidosis. It's just that simple. Just mirror it and just change these two words or these two phrases right here to will, positive to a negative, and you're good to go. So the dependent variable or our prediction is diabetic ketoacidosis. Why? That was our observed phenomenon. Your dependent variable is always your observed phenomenon. And the independent variable of the cause is obviously insulin. So let me summarize this. Doesn't look good. It's not fitting on the screen. 1 second. Aha. So in conclusion, this is how they look. Alternative is independent variable plus the dependent variable equals prediction of cause and effect. The null is the independent variable plus the dependent variable equals prediction of no cause and effect. Your experiment is the independent variable plus the dependent variable plus there's an addition, controlled variables, like we discussed above, that equals prediction of cause and effect. There it is right there, folks. That's science right there, but that's it. Now, I brought this up earlier. This is really good. And this is from the University of Rochester Physics Lab again. Common mistakes in applying the scientific method. Let's just cut to the chase. The most fundamental error is to mistake the hypothesis for an explanation of a phenomenon without performing experimental tests, right? Your common sense, like it says, sometimes common sense and logic tempt us into believing that no test is needed. Well, you're on shrooms. To be science, you have to test it. And like today, they didn't even give us a hypothesis, did they? They just gave us this. It's a joke. It's a joke. I don't need your just so story. I can make one up just like you. Right? I don't need that. I need the hypothesis, and then I need an explanation. That's the experiment validating it. That's what I need. If you ain't giving me this, don't waste your time. Right? Don't waste your time. You're just keeping me away from more important things like cleaning the bathroom. Now, another important thing. Every single claim from the ball-tard spinning space monkey religion, it comes as an affirming the consequent formal logical fallacy. And I know you guys heard this before because Nathan's been telling, right?
Well, this is my favourite one that Nathan changed, isn't it? This is the one that changed from if full to if drunk. Because of the...
Oh, yeah, the alcohol. He did it. That's a really good example. Yeah. Right. So it's real easy. They all take this form. It's if P, then Q, Q, therefore P. And, of course, I got fairy tale evolution because evolutionists do this like it's mind-numbing. Everything they say is an affirming consequence. But here's an example. If evolution is true, P, then you can insert any Darwinian grab bag post hoc observations, fossils, homology, similarity, genetic variation, Q. We observe the post hoc observation, Q. Therefore, evolution is true. Therefore, P. That's a joke, right? And the ballers do the same thing. Here we go. If the spherical Earth with a radius of la 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 is true, P, we will observe differing elevation angles of the stars, la la la, whatever, Q. We observe differing elevation angles of the stars, Q. Therefore, the spherical Earth is true. Therefore, P, right? It's ridiculous because the logical fallacy is that P doesn't necessarily follow from Q. Example, if I had just eaten a whole pizza, P, I would feel very full, Q. I feel very full, Q. Therefore, I've just eaten a whole pizza, therefore, P. Right? It's ridiculous. Instead of the pizza, couldn't I have eaten a 20-ounce ribeye with fries or the old 96er? Right? Prove your spherical Earth first. Then we can talk. Right? Other than that, this is a train wreck, man. Train wreck stuff. Right? But you have to be able to think on your feet and be able to identify it when they come out with this stuff, especially when they're talking real fast. But I'll tell you what, every single one boils down to this. Every single one. I haven't heard one that hasn't, unless they're truly incoherent. They're just non sequiturs from the get-go. They all boil down to this. So if there's one fallacy you need to learn, it's this one. It's got an incoherent brother too. It's called denying the antecedent. We won't get into that one today. Okay, that's the science presentation. Let me hold up right there.
Yeah, let's breathe. There's got a Bolivian salt flask. I was thinking again. No, that was wicked. Great.
I went through it pretty quickly, but I don't know. You guys don't let me intimidate you now. If there's something that you say, well, wait a second, this guy's talking bollocks. Stop me.
No, I'm not. I'm just. For me, it's not talking bollocks. It's reminding of how harsh the rules of science are in terms of what they demand for proof. Like I said, that was a good refresher. I do like the last bit, to be honest with you. Like I said, I prefer the phrase, if I've drunk 10 whiskies, I feel very drunk. I feel very drunk.
Did I scare somebody away? Somebody left.
No, Walt's central eating. Oh, his aircon's gone doolally.
No, Walt sends his best. He had some company and had to disappear for a little bit, but he will be back. You did not scare anybody away.
All right, good. Okay, you want to take just a small little break before we get into the proofs?
Well, let's scroll back up a little bit.
Sure. Right.
Let's start step one, right? So we're going to observe a natural phenomenon.
Okay.
So we're gonna start applying this because this was made mention in chat. What would make you think then that water comes from H2O? So let's just go ahead and apply sort of this scientific method to determining water is comprised of H2O.
Okay.
Can we just walk through it real quick?
Yeah, no, not a problem. Yeah. Observe a natural phenomenon, huh?
Yep.
Well, we observe water. Right? So we got the water part.
Well, I think I actually did cover this, John, it is the experiment. I mean, the experiment in itself. So the natural phenomenon you would observe is that if you apply a current to a very dilute mixture of sulfuric acid.
Yeah, I don't think he's there yet. Who asked that first question?
Well, this was from chat. This is Josh. I was just kind of pulling it from chat. They were just. I don't know if they're still sort of sticking up, I think, for some of these people that are into this whole water thing. Or I don't know exactly what it was going on, but it just seemed like it would be a good thing to at least primer ourselves for an upcoming discussion. On
and that was a really good question. You know why? Now that I'm thinking about this, and when you said it, I said, "Uh-oh." Because we're going. This is a cold call. Okay, so you said water. We're observing water, right? That's not a phenomenon. That's a concrete noun, right?
Gotcha.
Right. So, right there, it couldn't fit because it's not. You didn't observe. Now, if you observe like hydrogen gas and lightning hitting that hydrogen gas and then a big explosion and a whole bunch of water falling on you, that's a different story, right? Right? Could you see where I'm headed with this?
Nope. Yeah, I see that.
But from just looking at water, you can't enter the method just yet.
Gotcha.
Was that where you were headed with it?
Sort of. I think maybe that was where the guy in chat was headed with it, but I think that was sort of his full stop right there.
That was pretty smart. Who did that? State the name.
Ooh, wow! I'd have to really scroll.
Don't. If you have to do a lot of work, then don't. Whoever did it, man, thumbs up to you. You caught it. See, they're getting smart. These guys. This might be dangerous telling these people this, man. They're getting smart, so he's correct. From that standpoint, it can't enter it yet. It can't enter the method yet because there is no phenomenon. However, that doesn't mean that we can't identify the makeup of water. Of course, water is a compound, not an element. Okay? Pull up the periodic table of elements, and I realize we're just going off arbitrary definitions, but that's the definitions that we're working with in chemistry. I want somebody to pull up a periodic table of elements and show me water. Please. Right? It's moronic. It's not an element. Now, if you want to go down your alchemy, 13th century alchemy train wreck and make up definitions, be my guest. Right? An element has a certain definition. A compound has another different definition. Right? Am I off the reservation here?
Nope.
Do I need to go back and take general chemistry again?
Again, it's a shame you missed it's a shame you had a late tea. It's exactly what I was saying. There's a difference between.
You already went over this?
No, it was the same comment I made, that there's a difference between an alchemical concept of water where it would be considered elemental and one that's contained within the periodic table, which is, our understanding of what we would class, as you would class, chemistry on that previous list.
Now, in alchemy, water is actually one of the four forces. It's not an element.
They
call it an element, but it's different.
Right, gotcha. Yep. Earth, wind, and fire, right, and water?
Yeah, not so much wind. They call it air, but yeah, same concept.
I was thinking the band. I think they had one or two good songs, if I'm not mistaken.
We need Walt
Can't recall. Yep. Is there any other questions on the science part? Anyone from chat? Anything that we could talk about?
Have you just got back, Zach? Are you back in Wi-Fi zone?
Not so much Wi-Fi, but I have a connection to where I could actually. Cool. It's not skipping around. Yeah, I'm taking Hank to the park, the local elementary school here. Gonna get him some exercise in for the day.
So I have a question.
Sure.
SZ CZ UD
What in the world? Was that the question?
Well, so far, this is John in chat, and I'm trying to spell his last name without even attempting and effing it up 6 ways to Sunday. Okay, so I'm just wondering if maybe anybody else might have an attempt at a pronunciation of that last name. Or maybe John and Chet, if you could maybe write it out phonetically for my slow ass, that would be awesome too.
I'm going to go with Suzlik.
That's almost where I was. Yeah, maybe it's so hard because it just doesn't roll out of the tongue. You almost gotta force it out your mouth.
Does he have a question?
Sudlik, he said. Perfect.
That I may answer or can answer. If I can, I will.
He was the one that had brought up the water question.
Oh, right. Okay. Oh, I got you. Okay. Yeah. Good darn question, man. He's all over it. He's right. He's correct. I know where he's going with it. Yep. That wouldn't do it.
So I guess now Dr. Hugo Bones in chat basically asking a similar question is, can we apply the scientific method to prove the composition of water?
It can't enter the scientific method unless you get hydrogen gas with a spark and you get rained on.
Gotcha.
So my answer to that would probably be no. However,
I can.
I can, right. Now, is it in the realm of possibility that could happen? Yeah. But just looking at water, no. However, you can discover the composition of stuff. It doesn't have to enter the scientific method. I can tell what the composition of a gummy bear is without getting into the scientific method, right? I just identify its constituent parts. It does. Okay, this is a good point. Thanks for bringing this up. There are different methods to getting at truth, okay? One is the scientific method. And remember I said, the scientific method only adjudicates cause and effect questions, right? So if it's not a cause and effect question, like if the Earth is a sphere, the Earth is flat, the Earth is spinning or not spinning, those aren't cause and effect questions. Those are what is questions. Therefore, nothing, and this is what these ballers can't get, and it cracks me up. Those can't enter the scientific method. There is no science to them. Okay, none of it. Flat, spinning, sphere. Those are what is questions. They can't enter the scientific method. It's tantamount to asking why a bread box is rectangular, true or false. Right? It's non sequitur. It doesn't make any sense. Now, like I said, there's different methods to getting at truth. One is the scientific method. The other is logic. The other is logic combined with known scientific principles. And number 4, I'm a Christian, so Scripture is my method to truth. I've already validated that, right? So I have 4 ways to get at truth. Other people might just have 3. All I want to do is to stress that the scientific method isn't the only way to get at truth. Any questions about that?
Nope.
Okay. That's a really good question. I'm glad he brought it up.
With regards to the specific problem, I think it's impossible to do one specific scientific experiment to prove the point. It would require 3 or 4 because within what we've discussed in terms of the water production and hydrogen.
We're still on the water.
Yeah, I'm using. Well, we're still there. We're using it as an analogy. To prove something like that, a single experiment doesn't. You need to validate all components of the assumptions you're making. So you tend to have to make.
Well, wait a second. Okay, let's do the thing that I did back in 5th grade. He came around. I remember him coming around. It's a little hazy because it's 5th grade. It's way many moons have passed. I can remember having hydrogen in a test tube. I can remember holding a test tube, and I can't even remember what little spark thing. A little spark thing that they give you, right? You squeeze it, it sparks.
Yeah,
I can't remember. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, the igniter for the Bunsen's.
Yeah, igniter for the Bunsen burner, exactly. We used that because we were poor out in the country.
You didn't have splints, wooden splints. Shocking.
Yeah, right. So, and all we did was crack it. I can remember it was an explosion. It's exothermic reaction, right? And water was in the test tube after it. All right. We took all of it. We poured it out. made another bigger test tube with the product of the reaction, and he drank it. Right? There was no water in there before. Now, I don't know. Do I have to get this notarized? Didn't we all do this before? Am I special? I mean, come on.
I don't think I've done it. I don't remember
Really?
seeing this done in, well, I've smoked a lot of weed between now and
Hey,
then.
listen,
It's
listen.
possible, but I
Listen.
don't necessarily remember.
Listen, I lost more than most people smoke. Okay, but maybe, I don't know, maybe I was the only one. I remember doing it. It was way back here, way back in the day.
That said, I will not discount the fact you are definitely special, John. Don't let anybody tell you different.
Oh, thanks, man. Thanks. Trying to manipulate me already. Don't be
That's it.
blowing sunshine over this way.
All I said was special. You're unique, just like everybody else.
Yeah, right. Yeah, everybody gets a trophy, right? Not in this house.
You're gonna fail. You're gonna fail miserably.
Yeah, that's right. You ain't getting nothing, maybe a spanking. All right. Any other questions before we move on to the... Yeah, let me go back down. So the 4 proofs, right? You like my 4 proofs, didn't you?
Well, I think considering your stringent criteria, it's going to be good fun to look at these now. This is...
Yeah, because remember what I said. I said that flat or sphere Earth cannot enter the scientific method because those questions, well, is the Earth flat or is the Earth a sphere? Are those cause and effect questions or what is question? Right? They're what is questions. That means they can't enter the scientific method. However, what did I say to get a truth that you could use? Logical consistency with scientific principles established, right? They're not as sexy as scientific evidence, but I'll tell you what, they got teeth. And you're going to feel them here in a couple minutes if there's any globetards out there. These proofs are irrefutable. You cannot refute them, all right? They've gone through my personal crucible. You cannot refute them. No one has refuted them in 2 years. I've given these to secular astrophysicists, and you know what they did? They called me names. That's how I know they can't be refuted. You can try. I know all your little silly arguments for each one. I'm waiting for you with the nail-spiked Louisville Slugger sitting right here. So bring it on, meat. Okay, we ready?
Yep. Taking it.
All right, the Bolivian salt flats. This is one of these, man. I'll tell you what, look at this. I even took this as my icon. I loved it, right? It's absolutely beautiful, man. Breathtaking out there. Like I said, I'd like to get on one of the bucket lists. I'd like to get there. Probably won't, right? Because I'm an old fart. I don't want to travel anymore. I'm tired of that nonsense. But this is gorgeous, man. And it's not only gorgeous, it pummels the globetard religion. Why? According to the heliocentric, sun-worshipping, spinning ball space monkey religion, every point along a tangent in every direction from your feet drops. That's vertical drop away from you at 8 inches per mile squared, right? We all know this. So the Salar in the Bolivian Andes is the largest salt flat, that's a key word, on Earth. Here comes the next dagger. Exhibiting less than 1 meter of vertical relief over an area of 9,000 square kilometers, right? I don't even have to go any further than this. I shouldn't even have to explain anything. All I need is this vertical drop and no vertical drop, and you guys should already get it, right? It's that easy, but I won't. This is a geometrical flat plane, right? It's just what it is. They don't have to say it is. Its constituents make it that. If you got 1 meter vertical relief, less than 1 meter vertical relief, it's a geometrical flat plane. Duh. You can have a myriad of topographical features on a sphere. That's mountains, ridges, saddles, spurs, depressions. You know what you can't have? A geometrical flat plane, and this one is over 9,000 square kilometers. It's over. Therefore, how can you stage 5 cling with a kung fu death grip to your fairy tale religion that has one of its foundational tenets, vertical drop, and yet at the same time have a flat plane with less than 1 meter vertical drop? You can't have it. It's standing contradiction on its face, right? During one of the measurements from north to south, there's 100 kilometers or 62 miles measurement, and the vertical drop should be 781 meters during the length of that. It's just that simple. But there's less than 1 meter vertical drop. So unless you can show me the 780 meters missing vertical drop, you live in or on a fairy tale, the end.
Refraction.
And let me stop right here. Okay, I'm going through these 4 proofs. I forgot this. I'm going through these 4 proofs, and I've given these 4 proofs like, I don't know, 20, 30 times in the past 2 years, right? Maybe you have seen them before I got it, okay? This absolutely drives me nuts. I have a new experiment. Number 1, it's not an experiment. To prove the flat Earth. Why? I've got the 4 right here. What do you want to beat the dead horse some more? Don't go out there chasing. You don't have to do anything. What do you want to prove it more? I know this is going to shock some people. Just use these 4. They're very easy to understand. I've already done all the legwork. Just use these 4. I didn't copyright them. Not yet. Go ahead and use these, guys. That's why I do it. Use it. All the stuff I put out, I want you to use it. Not just me, everyone. Right? They're not mine. Does everyone understand that? Am I off the reservation with this?
Nope. You're right there.
Yeah. Don't conjure up anymore. I mean, go ahead. If you want to do it just, for fun, for shits and giggles, go ahead. You don't need them. I can stop right here. I can just stop right here. I don't have to go any further for a flat Earth. I really don't. How can you reconcile? Am I missing something here? What am I missing?
Like personal proof, I think there's additional benefit to, if you look at the things like on lakes and stuff and experiments and the way it gathers.
Those aren't experiments.
I didn't say scientific experiments. I'm trying to pick my words. I think there's merit in them, if for nothing else than community, but there might be definitive proof. I think
I already got the definitive proof right here.
Number 2 or B. What's B? What?
These are pragmatic, right? These proofs are pragmatic. All my proofs are pragmatic, except for the last one. We'll get to that. But these are pragmatic. I mean, they're practical. The work's already been done, right? Okay, let's go. I know you want. Let me move on. Let me get off my soapbox. All right, this is another one. I ain't gonna say my favorite. They're all my favorite. So the Evolved Sea Sparrow missile, right? Here's a picture of it. Now notice 2 things. In the calculations below, I used 80 feet elevation above sea level. Now, I don't know, my eyes may be getting bad, I'm getting old, but that sure doesn't look like 80 feet up to the missile, does it? Right? Number 2, you see this contraption at the bottom right here? These are the target illumination radars. This one is a target illumination radar right here, right down there, right? That's going to become very important here in a second. Characteristics of the Evolved Sea Sparrow Missile Block 1. Primary function, surface to air and surface to surface radar guided missile. My number 1 comeback to this argument is it's not a surface to surface-guided missile. It's surface to air. Even after I show them this, right? It's from the Navy, for crying out loud. The range is more than 35 miles. It's at least 35 miles. The rest is classified. Now, listen closely. It's going to come screaming at you. The missile receives a reflected signal from a target that is being illuminated with an RF signal transmitted from a fire control radar on a standoff platform. Such systems require, that means it's absolutely necessarily needed, that the platform maintain, here's the rub, line of sight to the target until it is engaged by the missile. So if you look at this, and then you look at that, and you think you live on a fairy tale spinning ball, you got major problems, right? The target is illuminated with a 2-degree RF pencil beam, which has to be maintained, painted on the target until detonation. At a more than generous 80 feet, I gave them 80 feet above sea level. That's the target illumination radar height. Using the affirming the consequent perspective hijacking, angular size change blinded, bulge compensating, willful diffraction limit ignorant, proof of nothing, Willie Yankin circle jerk calculator. I even used theirs. Okay?
That gets longer every time, doesn't it, that description?
Longer every time.
The target should be hidden behind 385 feet of curvature. Now, ball-tards, you have to explain how you can have line of sight 35 miles away on a spinning ball by showing how a 2-degree RF pencil beam can penetrate 385 feet of water, that's 117 meters, of target hidden height through a wall of water 24 miles in length. Good luck. Best wishes. It'd be easier resurrecting Alexander the Great's horse, right? And remember, I said for PS, 35 miles is lowballing because the official max effective range is class 5. It's much greater than 35 miles. So, in summary, the Evolved Sea Sparrow missile mass effective range is greater than 35 miles. Surface targets are engaged by the Evolved Sea Sparrow missile, and one of the big targets that they do engage are sea skimmers, right? The sea skimming missiles. Now, they're not technically surface targets. However, they're only 10 to 30 feet off the deck. So for all intents and purposes, they can be considered surface targets. You guys following me with that?
Yep, I'm right there.
Okay. To engage the target, it must be illuminated by the RF pencil beam, which are governed by the target illumination radars I showed you above. That means it must have line of sight. The target illumination radar must be on the same ship, that's the launch ship, as the missile. We're going to get to that here in a second. So, in conclusion, either the Evolved Sea Sparrow missile, that's the ESSM Block 1, exists, or the spinning ball religion exists. Both can't be true. The end. Okay? Now, one of the major comebacks besides the doofus argument from above, it's a surface-to-air missile only, quantum. The other argument is, well, can't the target illumination radars be like 3 miles away on another ship and have another ship 35 miles away shoot the missile? No. Watch. From Raytheon, unlike the RIM 7 Sea Sparrow and the Evolved Sea Sparrow missile Block 1, what we're talking about, unlike those, the new Block 2's active seeker will support terminal engagement without the launch ship's target illumination radars. You see it? You see it? That means this guy must have the target illumination radars on the launch ship. Kaboom. And this is the Evolved Sea Sparrow missile, the Block 2. It's an improved short-range missile. However, this won't be fielded until 2020. It's in testing right now with 80 missiles going to the fleet. So it's not It's not out there just yet for the military. However, the first production, and now we're talking about my argument, the Evolved Sea Sparrow Missile Block 1 was delivered in late 2002 to the Navy by Raytheon and has been in full operational use since 2004. So, please tell me how the Evolved Sea Sparrow Missile Block 1 has been engaging surface-based targets at more than 35 miles with the target illumination radars on ships for the past 14 years. The spinning ball religion is dead, the end. I can't break this down any further. Why do we need any more tests? They already did it. The U.S. government. Thank you very much. Right? I know. People have to go outside. It's a business now.
I think that's probably a flat earther's reason for doing the tests, is that data's controlled by the US government.
Yeah, but it's not in a vacuum. You've got actual soldiers dealing with these things. I was a soldier. Does that mean I'm corrupt? Don't answer that. So here's another good one. I love this one. The Earth is not spinning. You get all kind of crayon munchers out here that don't know what the Coriolis effect is, right? You guys heard it. I know you did. Hopefully you're not one of those parroting in this nonsense, right? Hopefully you guys know what the Coriolis effect is. It's not what you think it is. I'll tell you that much. So, for the Coriolis effect to exist, you must have, that is the necessary condition, two differing frames of reference. One rotating coordinate system, that's non-inertial, that's the Earth, and one non-rotating coordinate system, that's the inertial, that's the atmosphere, and everything in it. So, from Seagar Douglas, Introduction to Ocean Sciences. This is a university-level textbook. This is the second edition critical concept reminders. So this is critical. When set in motion, freely moving objects, including air, that's the atmosphere, and water masses, that's clouds and water vapor, move in straight paths while the Earth continues to do what? Rotate independently. Because freely moving objects are not carried with the Earth as it rotates, they are subject to an apparent deflection called the Coriolis effect. You see this apparent deflection, or the word apparent? This means in science, not really. Okay? To an observer rotating with the Earth, freely moving objects that travel in a straight line appear to travel in a curved path. So, let's go to the retarded wiki link. I have it all set. Let's go to the Crayon Munchers Wiki Warrior site, right? Gives a diagram for anybody that's a little slow. Now, that definition described what this is illustrating, right? So let's say you're this guy up here. You're rotating with the rotating reference frame, and a ball is thrown, and it's off the rotating reference frame. It's separate. This ball's going straight, right? However, and you can look down here, because you're rotating here, this ball appears to curve. It ain't curving. It's going straight. But because you're rotating, it appears to curve, right? That's the Coriolis effect. That's what this definition is saying. Now, if you don't like that definition, let's go to Encyclopedia Britannica. Let's see if we can echo some of the statements. So, within its rotating coordinate system, the object acted on by the Coriolis effect, oh my God, appears to deflect. Oh, it says the same thing. It must be a dang conspiracy. The object acted on by the Coriolis effect appears to deflect off its path of motion. This deflection is not real. Does everyone see that? I just told you that with the definition of apparent. It's not real. It only appears to happen because the coordinate system that establishes a frame of reference for the observer is also rotating, just like I showed you with the illustration. Now, from the University of Oregon, the effect of the Coriolis effect is, oh my God, it said it again. Oh, no. It's an apparent deflection off the path of an object that moves within a rotating coordinate system. The object does not actually deviate from its path. Why? Well, because it's apparent. But it appears, oh, it says appears again, to do so because of the motion of the coordinate system. Okay. Now, I just wanted to stress that part. That part is not part of my argument. Okay? I just want to let everyone know what the Coriolis effect is. Okay? So, clouds rotating, clouds don't apparently deflect. Okay? So every time somebody says that this is the Coriolis effect and this is the Coriolis effect, it's not. So pay attention to this argument. This is really clever, right? I'm patting myself on the back for this one. I love this one. So what's rotating in our scenario here? Well, the Earth is rotating. B, what's moving independent of the rotating Earth? Well, the atmosphere. We already established that there's two independent frames of reference. So not only is the atmosphere not rotating, everything or every freely moving object in it doesn't rotate with the Earth. That's bullets, planes, balloons, whatever. Freely moving objects, like I said, are not carried with the Earth as it rotates. That's what the definition just said. Now, if the Coriolis effect is true, and it is, because we can test it on a merry-go-round, right? Then it's necessary conditions A and B from above that afford the existence are therefore true. So what I'm doing is I'm using the Coriolis causes as the foundation of my argument. Not the effect, the Coriolis causes. So if A and B are true, and they are, if there's a rotating reference frame, then a flight from Charlotte, North Carolina to LA, nonstop, traveling at 500 miles per hour airspeed, with both locations roughly at the 35th degree north latitude, that is, they're both allegedly spinning at 860 miles an hour, should be 1.5 hours. But it's 4.5 hours. The Charlotte to Los Angeles flight, the airspeed's 500 miles an hour. You have to take the 500 miles per hour plus the 860 miles an hour that's coming in your face, because you're taking off from Charlotte, North Carolina, and you're heading west. The Earth and everything, the Earth is coming into your face, so you have to add that speed. Add both speeds, simple math, 1,360 miles an hour. In other words, based on the law of non-contradiction, the Coriolis effect, and this is really important, with respect to the Earth and the Charlotte flight at 1.5 hours are either both true or both false. The flight is most assuredly false. Therefore, the Earth is not spinning. Ergo, the ball goes by way of the dodo bird, or you're a stationary ball geocentrist. Voila. Have a nice day. The end.
And that is an awesome one. I'm just wondering how many flat earthers are going to be able to grasp that right away.
If they, like I said, rewind, study. Rewind, study. I'll tell you what, it's a little long, right? It may seem a little abstract, but it's really simple. I'm telling you, it's really simple once you get down to it. It's just flights. Like I said, they're pragmatic. We can do this stuff. This happens every day. Right?
So can you explain to me that the corrections that snipers are making for an apparent deflection?
Okay, listen. I am retired military, okay? I spent 8 years in reconnaissance. The sniper platoon was right down the hall for me for 5 years, right? I cross-trained with these guys every quarter. They were my drinking buddies also. Let me tell you something. I ain't even heard the term Coriolis effect, much less apply it. I mean, you got to be kidding me. I personally, myself, I'm sitting here myself, right? Made 1,300 to 1,500 meters myself with a Dragunov, right? Now, to be honest, I missed the first one. That damn thing, I couldn't even see it. But I got it on the second one. The spotter helped me. He wasn't giving me Coriolis effect corrections. So, you friggin' crayon munchers out there that are talking about these snipers, I'll tell you what, you get a sniper on here. I want to talk to him, and if he tells me that he uses the Coriolis effect, I'm freaking open up my camera up, I'll eat my shoe on air.
So my neighbor may well have been in that room at one point. Of course, he was in the brass side, so he may have stopped by that doorway once or twice. But he was in the what am I trying to say? Not the enlisted side, but he was an officer.
Hey, whoa, wait a second now. I was an officer too. So you're damned if you do and damned if you don't. I spent half my career as enlisted, as a non-commissioned officer, and the other half, I can't tell you, I'll have to kill you, but I was an officer, right? So don't be punking out officers on here, man.
I did not even punk out officers at all. And any officer that can spend at least half a career as an NCO, I think, deserves a lot of respect. It's these little young-ass punk asses that come out of college and think because they got a couple lieutenant bars that they get their shit don't stink.
I work for a living, sir. Yeah. It's okay. I'm just messing with you, man. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, my neighbor. Right. I asked him the same question because he was only what he would say was special forces and spent some time out there in the desert. So I got to talking to him about, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Yeah, sure. Go.
So I was talking to him about this. So, you were a sniper. So can you tell me about this Coriolis effect? I said, were you taught it in training? And he says, well, I remember there was in school. I said, so how do you calculate? I said, I can't imagine that's an easy formula. How do you calculate the Coriolis effect? Doesn't it change by the time you get done doing your calculations? So, well, we just got a little shooter card, so you just pull it out, and everything's factored in there. You just run your finger one across and one down, and you just line up your shots that way. There's no real factoring it in. They say it's already done for you. He said he was taught about it. He remembers hearing about it and learning about it, but never once has he ever seen or applied it.
That's right. That's exactly right. You got it. And let me tell you something else. Another thing these crayon munchers do. What they do is they bring out FMs, field manuals, and they say, well, the Coriolis effect is spoken of in here. Let me tell you something about field manual, right? I spent over 20 years in the military. I looked at a field manual twice, once for the E5 board and once for the E6 board. Let me tell you something. They could hide Jimmy Hoffa's burial place in there, and he's good to go. You ain't finding it. And let me tell you something else. I was stationed in a spot where we would get defectors, Russian defectors and East German defectors, right? And they used to interrogate them up at G2, intelligence. And we'd get the debriefings. You know what they'd say? They couldn't stand training for the American Army. You know why? Those bastards never looked at their field manuals. That was and we knew it. We'd sit back there laughing because we knew it. They could never train for us because they never know what we were going to do. That's cool, man. Thanks for bringing that up. That brings back a lot of memories. Yep, that's a fact, gentlemen. And I'm speaking from personal experience. Primary knowledge. How about that? All right, we ready to move on?
Yep.
All right, this was the argument put forward to me that converted me to a flat earther within less than a Planck time, right? Because I was out there, like I said, for 10 years. I never really, heard anything on the forums about flat Earth. Maybe every once in a while, maybe about, 8 years ago, somebody brought it up. I just laugh it off and move on, right? But I knew, astrophysics, astronomy, cosmology, all those guys. I knew they were pseudoscientists from the get-go, right? I knew that. I just never put everything together, right? So I'm on a forum, and this gentleman, he knows that I've been tearing apart these friggin' evolutionists and Einsteinists and Newtonianists and all those guys. He goes, I got a question for you. I said, shoot. He goes, you ever hear that flat Earth? And I said, yeah, kind of. He goes, the Earth's flat, and I can demonstrate it. And I started laughing. Obviously, we all do that. I said, yeah, go ahead, man. He goes, try to refute this. And he says, how can you have a vacuum against, or air pressure against a vacuum? And I said, oh, my God. Right there. It took less than a Planck time. I said, oh, my God. I knew it. I knew everything. I knew there wasn't an argument against it. I know the second law of thermodynamics, backwards and forwards. And it hit me like a ton of bricks. Everything fell away. I was a flat earther, and so quick, it'd make your head spin, right? I was out there battling astrophysics like a week after I was a flat earther. And I got the proof to it. I got the emails. I had personal correspondence to these retards. But anyway, this is the argument that really sent me on the course. So, and it's real easy. And you know this one because you heard it on the, if you've been keeping up with the flat earth debate, then you know this one. How do you have a gas pressure, atmospheric pressure, without a container to begin with, when the pressure of a gas is the force that the gas exerts on the walls of its container, right? I mean, this is over right here. It's really over. You have to have a container. That's it. It's over. They can scream and cry and stomp their feet. They can do, and they do. But it's just that simple. So this is real easy. You can't have a gas pressure in an open system. And according to their fairy tale, the Earth is an open system, right? Of course, they don't know what open, closed, and isolated systems are. They're just parroting this stuff. But you can't have gas pressure in an open system. Married bachelors are more tenable. So basically, you have to explain how you can have a tire pressure without the friggin' tire, right? Now, I don't have Ryan on here. I usually put Ryan in here pumping up the tire. If you watch that video, you know I'm talking about, right? But I don't need Ryan. It's over right here. So, and number two, how can you have a vacuum, outer space, attached to a non-vacuum Earth without a physical barrier in the same system simultaneously, without the laws of entropy or the second law of thermodynamics? You can't. In other words, how are you still breathing, adhering to your fairy tale religion, both at the same time? Then define the law of non-contradiction. Then, please list, this is really important, please list each fairy tale associated with outer space that gets taken out back to the woodshed and bludgeoned senseless as a result of the fairy tale vacuum of space vaporizing. Like, whenever people bring up satellites or moon landings, anything to do with space, I bring this argument up. Because I don't want to chase all those things down. I don't need to. All I need to disprove is the medium. If you say the medium is a vacuum and I disprove it, then I don't have to do anything else, right? I just disprove the medium. It's real easy, saves time. And this is kind of fun. How in the world did the Earth form an atmosphere at all in a vacuum? From a Big Bang? Have you ever heard the phrase, nature abhors a vacuum, by chance? Why is that? That's rhetorical, by the way. P.S. If your theory is found to be against the second law of thermodynamics, I can give you no hope. There is nothing for your theory but to collapse in the deepest humiliation. This is from 1930. Arthur Eddington, The Nature of the Physical World. Kaboom! The end, you live in a deeply humiliated fairy tale. All right, any questions on that one?
No. That's one of my favourites. Is
Well, just real quick, can you cite that law of entropy?
Can I cite the law of entropy?
No,
yeah, I could go
I don't need a citation. Could you just repeat it just so it's out there rather than just having said it?
Basically, the law of entropy is that energy will go from an area of concentration to dispersion.
Mm-hmm. That's
basically, in a nutshell, the second law of thermodynamics.
Until an equilibrium's reached, isn't it? And then
Exactly. Everything will always go from concentrated to dispersed, always. Unless there's two criterion that need to be overcome or that need to be instituted to overcome the second law of thermodynamics, and you're only going to overcome it for a limited amount of time anyway. So what you need is, number one, you need energy to overcome it, and it has to be the right amount of energy. And number two, intelligence. You need intelligence to overcome it, right? A good example I used to have many years ago was you just go shopping, right? You buy a whole bunch of groceries, you put them down on the counter, you go take a nap. You get up and you look over at the groceries and they didn't put themselves away, right? What do you have to do to put those groceries away? Well, you have to apply just the right amount of energy, right? So you don't crush the bread or smash the eggs, and you need intelligence so you don't put the ice cream in the cupboard and the canola oil in the freezer. You like that one?
That's pretty.
That's old-timey, man. I'm going old school on you.
you tell me, I had to chew on it just for a second. I wonder.
Hey,
yeah.
just rewind it. Just rewind it, man.
No, I mean the point there is that naturally within nature doesn't defy entropy. It naturally follows it. It does require intervention. Right,
exactly. It'll always go from an area, and that's the best definite. I can go get it, the official one, but if I can put it, paraphrase it succinctly, it would be energy dispersion from concentrated to dispersed. And energy, I mean, you can take anything, atoms, molecules, everything, elements, compounds. Oh, you guys didn't get that one. Sorry about that.
Sorry, I do keep my volume low. I've been.
Oh, I forgot to ask you about my volume. I could get a little hyper.
No, your volume's been great.
All right, last one. Linear squared functions. Now, listen. Even this statement right here is friggin' moronic, isn't it? Just a statement. It's friggin' moronic if you know anything about, functions and graphing functions, right? Well, let me show you. Thanks to Ranty, right? I took the raw photograph that Ranty had of these turbines, right? And I was looking at it and I said, what in the world? I mean, there's a lot of things wrong with this from a globe-tard perspective, but one jumped out at me. It was like the elephant in the room. I said, let me draw some lines here. So I drew the lines from the near turbines, and then I drew the lines from the 21.4 miles to the 23.6 miles. And then I said to myself, this kills the spinning ball by itself, right? Because you can't have linear lines through the hubs on a spinning ball religion that must obey nonlinear squaring functions, right? It's over right there. I could stop. I could go clean the bathroom. Yeah, I don't need a model. I don't need a model. You have a model, you're going to model. I don't need a model. I got the picture right here. This is reality, right? There's no argument against this. None. I don't know. It's been many moons since I was graphing functions, I have to admit. But I remember how this kind of works. Right? Am I wrong here?
No.
Please.
It's a beautiful proof that Ranty got there. The two.
So
Well, that was one
I'm
of those
not-
things that jumped out at you, Adam. Wasn't it this very issue?
Yeah. Mine's a slightly different perspective. I mean, the first point is that it should bend slightly. You've got such a lovely stretch that you should not be able to get the linear line we have through there. My point really is that even if you've got the linear line, what you shouldn't see is that they are of equal inclination to the horizon.
that they're parallel.
Yeah, the second set, because they're being viewed at the same time, the second set should have a slightly steeper incline as it occupies a slightly further point on the supposed curve. So even if you could argue, it's because you can't quite discern the slight differences as they try to, and we'll get into why they try to pretend you can't see the line in terms of the measurements they're using, which is just distance between turbines as opposed to distance from viewer. But it really is that the second set should be, I'd say, angled slightly more to fit the bit of the ball that they're supposedly on from the viewer's perspective.
Wow. So you want to be a trailblazer, huh? You want to be the new guy on the block and do something different than mine, huh?
It's just an addition, isn't it? It's an addition. It's do you know what I mean? It's a great proof that Ranty's got there. It's absolutely fantastic, and if we're seeing more than one ball smasher in it, that's great, isn't it?
Yeah, it is definitely.
Yeah.
Okay, gentlemen, if you don't have anything else, then thanks for your year. Have a nice day.
Yeah. Mate, that was brilliant. Thank you.
Was absolutely.
No, I didn't leave. That's just my ending. It's like copyrighted.
I'm glad.
I felt like I just gave birth.
I bet after a while this almost gets to be a bit of a labor of love. It'd have to be after 30 or 40 times of giving this spiel to the Elmer Fuds of us. It's gotta be just frustrating as all hell.
You must have read some of my comments using Elmer Fudd.
I think I pulled that from our last conversation. Yeah.
Oh, I'm saying, I figured I always use Elmer Fudd. Too funny, man. Yeah, it gets frustrating. You can probably hear some of the times I get frustrated. Repeating the same thing over and over again. But it's really important to do that because it's Nathan and I were talking about this before, and repetition is important. And that's a hallmark or a traditional tenet of teaching. You do it over and over and over and over and over again, right? That's when it starts to sink through. So I adjusted my attitude towards it a little bit.
The repetition is good, especially in teaching and or learning. But I think more importantly is the consistency and what it says about the character of the person giving the information. When the information is consistent and verifiable, so it's not wishy-washy, and it's concise, so people can actually go back and hit rewind. And it may be a little heady sometimes, and it take a little bit time to understand it for it to sink in. But it's that type of thing that just needs to be put out there.
Yeah, I agree. If you're motivated, just go back. Like I said, these presentations, I've been speaking on this. My first one, there's a bunch of videos on Cathexis's channel. Me and Cathexis were together. We did 14 episodes. A lot of this information is in there. Of course, Nathan's channel on the science, he took the Science First Scientism that we were doing on Cathexis's channel, and he just ran with that. There's a bunch on Nathan's channel, and of course this one on here. And let me just say this: a long time ago, I told Cathexis to name it Science First Pseudoscientism, because that's what it really is. It's not science versus scientism. It's science versus pseudoscientism, just for the record.
I like it. Nope. I'm going to have to start changing my vocabulary too. That's absolutely correct.
Yeah,
I never made that connection, but yeah, I dig it.
Yeah. So I don't know. You guys don't have any questions? Is there like a Q&A period? Is anyone still watching?
Let's have a look.
Yeah, there's actually quite a few people watching. We've had pretty steady numbers all night.
Oh, really?
Well, ours are never very high, but we actually kind of like it that way.
That's
intimate.
It's people hanging out watching live right now. We do get quite a few more on the replays, but right now we still got about 50 people watching live.
So they didn't rage quit yet?
No, you've not managed to upset them, so have another go.
Not yet. Yeah.
Yeah, give it a go. No, mate,
Hey, give me about 30 seconds. I'll be right back.
Nope, we got Forever Flat in chat, friend of ours from Twitter, John, who is just a big fan, who is absolutely loving tonight's show. So this one goes out to you. Big shout out, John. Glad you're here with us in chat.
Yeah, evening, John. I'll say hello. We've only ever chatted on. Sorry, not this John. Forever Flat John. Sorry, yeah, we've.
John Watson. You know, any Johns in chat. All the Johns, hello. And all you non-Johns. Janes. Hello to all the Janes and all the Johns. All the Tricks and all the Johns.
Oh, great. So, is there any questions? Do they have anything? How about any comments like, get that retard off of there?
Let's have a little look, see if I can find something disparaging about you, if that's what you're after.
Yeah, that's what I'm after. I need it.
Let's have a look.
We have Suzette Ann in chat asking your opinions on this idea of a hoax about jet fuel.
Oh, God. Not another one. Okay, listen. I take these jet fuel, this friggin' water stuff, this friggin' no trees on flat Earth, and I put them all in the same bag, and I put them out here right beside me, and I pick up my 44-inch Louisville nail spike slugger and start wailing away at it. It's nonsense. Get out of this stuff, man. Okay? Just get out of it. Let it alone. I don't know what's going on. I don't know. Maybe some infiltration, I don't know, from within. And these knuckleheads bring up all these ancillary, not that she's a knucklehead. They bring up all these things and make videos on them. And they make like I said in the beginning, remember? Is my screen still sharing?
You've got one sharing, yeah, but it's not on main presentation.
Oh, it's not. That's okay. That's okay.
But
remember,
it is showing. It is showing, but it's just in a little window.
Yeah. Remember I said, man, if you don't just stick with the main topic, listen, all you need is a flat. This is the biggest mind screw in the history of humanity, right? Don't go after the twigs. You got the whole spiel right here. What else is there, right?
Well, she had one more for you. Just out of curiosity, the nuclear hoax. This idea that nuclear bombs aren't really a thing.
Oh my goodness gracious, boy! I'm going to say no comment because I don't care. It's minuscule. It's nothing to me. I don't even get involved in that stuff anymore. I don't. What's the point? What if they do and what if they don't? I read the last chapter. I know how it's going to end. Right?
I think the nukes one's interesting. This, who knows?
I read ahead.
There's so much crap evidence that it raises a question.
That's fine.
But
yeah. But, well, yeah. Anything on the presentation?
I don't think there's much objection or criticism, mate. I don't think I'm seeing. Are you seeing out, Josh?
Nope, I'm not seeing much of anything. Like I said, there's been a lot of love in the chat tonight. We don't get a whole lot of ballers over here. They came through once a little bit earlier. That was the great thing about having you on a little bit later is they don't have the attention span to stick around.
Things I made flat enough saying rude presentation, fist pump. Noon's Flower, obviously, big smiley face to your phrase, crayon munchers. I think that's gone down now.
That's copyrighted. That's mine.
Flat enough, crayon munchers, laugh out loud. So, no, nobody hates you. I'm sorry, you've done a bad job tonight.
I have to work on this order.
Bloody rubbish.
Here's what I like. We have the nail-spiked Louisville slugger who's get to beat people's ideas in a huge bag down there next to you. And anybody that wants to come on and try to argue this science, the people that are out there, he sees you. He sees you. But I'm not trying to intimidate anybody. I just want to put that out there.
That's priceless. Thanks, man.
But that was actually some comments that I stole from Chad early when we first got this started. It was. I'm not trying to intimidate anybody, but I'm watching you.
Yeah. Too funny, man. Yeah, I get a little passionate. There's nothing wrong with that.
Nope.
People take it as arrogant and stuff. I'm really not that bad of a guy. Honest.
I have the same issues. Everybody thinks I get angry, but I'm just impassioned.
Yeah,
but
that's right.
That argument never comes across well when you're impassioned.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I got it. And I'm not going to convince anyone anyway. They ain't ever going to meet me, right? I could just be lying.
I don't know. I'm telling you, just down 44. It's not too. I'm usually down that way once in a while. We got to stop by and share a pint. Have a pint together. We don't have to share one. We can each have our own.
I was going to say. That's intimate.
Whatever you prefer. Whatever your poison is, it doesn't matter. I don't care.
I'm not a drunkard.
I'm not much of a drunkard either. I am more than happy to sit down and have a pint of coffee. Believe me, I'm more than happy.
Oh man, yeah. That's pretty
cool.
Awesome.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. We're right about not too far from 3.5 hours, which really isn't too bad. I thought this was going to be a lot longer.
So are we done?
I think we might as well be. Okay. I think that's going to be enough for people to chew on. I think hopefully we're going to get enough views from just the people stopping and rewinding and coming back to try to pick it up again and using this as a reference point. Ideally, this is going to go on my to-do list of things to try to edit down a bit more concisely, but damn, I got a big long list of things I need to do.
Well, good. I'm glad it helped. I hope those people, that's exactly what I want. I want them to come back and go over it, again and again and again, and use these arguments, man. There is no defense against this offense. None. You'll just crush them. They'll come up with silly little arguments. And maybe you might not have the acumen that I have with these arguments because I know all the arguments against them, but you'll get really good at them, right? Or you can ask me. I'm not that hard to get a hold of. You can get in touch with Adam here or Nathan. Just email them and say, hey, what's that crayon muncher talking about with this? right? And I'll answer back.
You're a gent, mate. I want to thank you for tonight. I've really enjoyed it. It's been informative and fun. So yeah, cheers.
You're very welcome, sir. Thank you for having me.
Well, Zach had to bounce out of here too. Zach has had a huge day, and I'm surprised he joined us at all, let alone lasted as long as he did. But I know he really enjoyed it too, and sends his best. Same with Walt. I know he planned on coming back, but I don't think he's going to make it from the looks of my text messages on my phone. But again, this is great stuff. I think this should definitely be used as a reference for a lot of people. Again, maybe do more than just learn the words. Being able to repeat the words doesn't make as strong an argument as actually knowing what the words mean and how it actually applies. But yeah, definitely use these arguments once you understand them a little bit. That would be my only suggestion. But with that, John, thank you so much for coming on here. I think we might as well go ahead and wrap it up.
You're welcome.
And please, feel free to come on again.
Yeah,
I will.
You'll have to pile in with Riley and Oakley and the lot next time,
Nathan,
mate.
Yeah, with my mates.
Your mates. Good lad.
All right. Yeah, will do, man. Will do. Hey, thanks again.
Thank you so much, John. Have a great rest of your night.
Cheers.
You
John.
too, guys.
Thanks, mate.
All right. Out.
I've never been so both wired and exhausted in such a strange combination before. Really weird.
Did you feel quantumly raised?
Oh, that's a yes. I definitely feel quantumly raised. Let's see. You got anything else, Adam?
I'm done for the night. Yep. Nope. I have nothing. I think we covered it all first half. So yeah, no, good show, mate. Enjoyed it. One thing, I suppose. Just see you next week. Hopefully, John, and hopefully Beulah's setting in. But other than that, no, it's been a goodie, and look forward to next week.
Yeah, we really missed your input, John. I think you would have really added a nice dimension to this conversation tonight. But I'm sure we'll probably catch it on Wednesday, because I'm sure if you're not listening now, again, you'll catch us on the replay. Well, hell. Well, it seems like I had other stuff, but by the time I think of it, it's going to be too late. So we might as well just call it. Maybe I'll make a note and come back to it next week. Or if anything, I may bring it up this Tuesday morning. This Tuesday morning at 4 a.m. over on TFRlive.com on the Ironworks, where Walt and I will just go ahead and break down all sorts of news things. We might have a guest. We just really play it by ear. For F's sake, it's 4 o'clock in the morning. You try making plans at 4 o'clock in the morning and see how well they turn out. I'm just saying. But if you got nothing else, I got nothing else. We might as well get the hell out of here.
Not everyone.
Good night, everybody. Thanks for tuning into the Iron Rail Media's Flat Earth Friday FringeCast. My name is Josh Corey. Thanks, Adam. Thanks, Walt. Thanks, Zach. John, wish you could have been here. And thanks, John Quantum Eraser, for coming in. What a show. All right, everybody. We'll see you again next week. Be well. Remember, put forth just that little bit of extra effort to be nice to the people around you. Love you guys. Bye-bye.